How are we looking? Shout out to Full Moon. The Planning and Zoning Committee meeting for March 20th, 2025 is called to order at 7 o'clock p.m. We're going to have a moment of silent meditation followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, may I please have roll call, please?
Roll call, Chair Nickerson.
Here.
Vice Chair Martin.
Present.
Member Erbaum.
Present.
Member Winters.
Present.
Member Lightfoot Ward.
Present.
Also present for the record, Christia Liu, Village Manager, Joseph Geller, Village Attorney, and Janice Jacoby, Village Clerk. You have a quorum.
Thank you very much. May I have a motion to approve the agenda? Moved by Councilperson Lightfoot Ward. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Mayor Martin. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Hearing none. Motion to approve the minutes. Moved by Councilperson Erbaum. Do you have a second? Second by.
Second.
Second by Councilperson Winters. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Hearing none. Next is the agenda item. Could I have the coordinator group come up here, please? And could we have the resident for 420 Northeast 89th Street? See?
Mr. Mayor, point of order.
Yes.
Have we heard any of these in our previous meetings?
We've heard two of these in a past planning and zoning meeting that was deferred. That would be F3 and 4 and F6 and 7.
That's
We've
right.
heard those before. Those are coming back. The F1, F2, and F5 are brand new.
Very good.
Thank you very much. You gonna help her out?
Yeah,
Okay,
I'll help her out.
all right, she's gonna help her out with the translation. For 420 Northeast 89th Street, can you please, Scarlett, Ms. Hammonds, can you give us kind of like a little background and give us the staff recommendation?
Definitely. Yes, this application is requesting a variance approval for a conversion of a garage to a living area in an existing residence at 420 Northeast 89th Street. This site is, for the lot, it's 6,800 square feet in size, and it's a single-family home built in 1948. The proposed residential use is permitted, first of the code, and the proposed garage conversion is to create additional living space to add a third bedroom. The front of the home will be replaced with garage door with a new window, which will complement the existing home. And this home was reviewed under development standards of the code and found to be consistent. And as you know, garage conversions are allowed by code through the variance process. So this is a variance application. Off-street parking is provided in their existing driveway, and this is recommended for approval with the condition that parking in the swale is not permitted in the future and that all future driveway modifications will comply with the village code for driveway standards.
Mayor, since we're reaching the first item at this time, it's appropriate for me to swear the witnesses for all these items.
Okay. Anyone, tell her raise your right hand. Anyone that is going to be testifying for any of these properties, stand up and raise your right hand and have Attorney Geller swear you in, please.
I, and state your name,
I understand your name.
do hereby solemnly swear that the testimony I will give tonight
That the testimony that I give tonight
will be the truth,
will be the truth,
the whole truth,
the whole truth,
and nothing but the truth.
and nothing but the truth.
So help me God, or you may take an affirmation.
Help me God and tell me.
Thank you. Witnesses are sworn.
Thank you very much, Attorney Geller.
The first time
Clerk Jacoby, just make sure that she understands that the approval comes with the conditions that people can't park on the swell,
de afuera. Yeah, I understand.
and that any other driveway, changes or modification in the future, she has to come before.
Si hay alguna modificación al recto, como que si quieres marcar algo más, cambiarlo, ¿verdad? Porque te entiendo.
Es que sí,
Si
yo
quieres,
entiendo.
sí, que no puedes estar parqueando en la parte
En la parte de afuera de la calle.
y que si vas a hacer alguna modificación tienes que regresar.
Sí, yo entiendo eso. O sea,
She understands.
Okay.
Yes.
Any questions or comments from the committee? Hearing, seeing none. Any questions or comments from the audience about this particular property? Hearing, seeing none. Do I have a motion to approve? Motion to approve by Councilperson Lightfoot Ward. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Mayor Martin. When you get a chance, Madam Clerk.
Roll call. Member Lightfoot Ward,
Yes.
Member Winters,
Yes.
Member Erbaum,
Yes.
Vice Chair Martin,
Yes.
Chair Nickerson.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank
Yeah.
you very much. She's going to explain the rest to you. So we're going to move on to F2. This is 242 Northeast 89th Street Garage Conversion. If I could have the client up, please. How you doing? Just go to this microphone for me,
Mayor,
please.
could I take a minute just to tell my spiel about the signs?
Absolutely,
I
go
forgot to do
ahead.
that.
No problem. Yeah.
So I want to make all of you aware that these are yard signs that will need to be posted in your sign for the next meeting, which will take place in over a month. We skip a month, and then you'll be invited back to come to the village council meeting, and these need to be posted 10 days before that meeting. I will fill these out with your information, and then you can pick them up here at Village Hall tomorrow, or as convenient between now and the next month, but they'll be available tomorrow. So please note that that is a requirement. Thank you.
Yeah, you guys all understand this is the committee level. So this is the Planning and Zoning Committee. So anything that passes today, it's not done. You have to pass it the full council meeting. And so you'll pass it the full council meeting. It'll probably be the May full council meeting. So tonight, if you pass tonight, then you have to just come back to Village Hall sometime starting tomorrow and get one of those signs, because for the full council meeting, which is the final thing, you guys need to put those signs in your yard for that final hearing. Okay? All right, that's all. If you give us a staff report for.
Thank you.
for
Yes, this applicant is requesting a variance approval, again, for a conversion of a garage into a living area at the residence at 242 Northeast 89th Street. The site is 11,905 square feet in size and currently contains a single-family home built in 1946. The proposed residential use will still exist and is permitted under the code. The proposed garage conversion is to create an additional living space to add a fourth bedroom, a bathroom, and laundry room. The front of the home will remain as it is, with the garage door as existing. The home was reviewed under the development standards, and the code found that it's consistent. And as you know, garage conversions are permitted through a variance process. And we noted that off-street parking is provided in the existing driveway. And our recommendation is for approval with the condition that parking in the swale is not permitted, and that all future driveway modifications shall comply with the village code and driveway standards, and that the existing asphalt pavement in the swale shall be removed.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Do you guys understand the conditions?
Yes.
Do you agree with the conditions?
Yes.
All right, thank you very much. Any questions or comments from the committee? Hearing, seeing none. Any questions or comments from the audience about this particular item? Hearing, seeing none. Do I have a motion to approve from a member of the committee?
So moved.
Moved by Vice Mayor Martin. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by, was that Councilperson Lightfoot Ward? Madam Clerk, may I please have a roll call, please?
Roll call. Member Winters,
Yes.
Member Lightfoot Ward,
Yes.
Member Erbaum,
Yes.
Vice Chair Martin,
Yes.
Chair Nickerson.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-5.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Next is F3 and F4. We'll do those. Do you guys want to do F3 and F4 together, or do you guys want to separate them? It's a split lot. It's 176 Northwest 88th Street. There's parcel A and parcel B.
You should probably, you can hear the staff report
Together, but then vote separately. All right, so let's have the clients for that to come up.
Mayor?
Yes,
point of order.
Councilperson Lightfoot Ward.
If they're on the same street, parcel A, parcel B was always like that?
It was one property, but they're splitting the lot.
Right.
Yeah. All right. If you could just kind of give us the background. This was deferred, you guys, from a previous planning and zoning meeting. Just give us a little background and the
Yes.
staff recommendation again. Thank you.
Yes, there were some design comments at the last planning and zoning board meeting. The applicant has made some adjustments and brought it back again for your review again for a second time. Again, just to remind you, the address is 176 Northwest 88th Street, and each site is 9,800 square feet in size and currently contains a single-family home. This is one of two parcels that, again, as the mayor said, is recently created by dividing a larger lot into legally conforming lots. That has been completed, and now they're coming in for their site plan approval and eventually building permit. The proposed residential use is permitted under the code, and the proposed home is two-story on parcel A. I'm talking about two stories, and will be a total of 300 and 242 square feet, and 4-bedroom, 3-bath, 2-car garage, and covered rear terrace. This is permitted under the code as a single-family home, and no variances are requested with this application. This design is considered to represent more of a contemporary architecture, although it is noted that it's proportional in scale to the residences comparable in the neighborhood. And planning recommends approval for parcel A. I'll just briefly go over the details of parcel B, which is also a 2-story home and is a total of 3,150 square feet. We'll have 4 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms, a 2-car garage, and a covered rear terrace. Again, this home is also not requesting any variances and completely compliant with code. And again, the house is a little bit more of a contemporary design, but seen to fit in with the compatibility of the neighborhood. And again, this is recommended for approval also as a 2-story home.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hammons. I appreciate it. Any questions or comments from the council? From the committee? Hearing, seeing none. Questions or comments from the audience? Just come up, you guys. Come up to this microphone right here for us. All right. Go ahead whenever you get started, my brother. We have a 3-minute clock, but I usually let you guys speak through it, but I'm gonna run it
Gotcha.
anyway. All right.
Okay, my name is Blair Walker. This is my wife Felicia. We live on 100. We're at 88th Street, Northwest 88th Street.
Say your address for us, please. Say your address for us, please. Your full address for us.
Full address, okay.
Yeah.
180 Northwest 88th Street. And we live beside the 2 parcels in question that at 176 Northwest 88th Street. We're very concerned about this because this was previously a parcel of land that only had 1 home on it, and that 1 home was roughly 2,000 square feet, and now we have 2 proposed homes that are each going to be roughly more than 3,000 square feet. As you just heard, that's within, that's okay in terms of the ordinance for El Portal. But my concern is that my wife and I have been living adjacent to this land for a decade now. And Mayor Dickerson was very conscientious about coming and speaking to residents about this. He made it a point after hours one day to come and talk to us. And I'm very concerned that when we have rain, and they're going to be laying concrete slabs, I don't want there to be runoff that will come onto my property and to the property of other people, other neighbors in this area. And I want, if it's at all possible, I want the developers to show that they have taken appropriate flood mitigation to make sure that this does not adversely affect the people living near this proposed development. And that's pretty much the gist of my concern about this development on 88th Street.
Thank you. We're going to get our comments first, and then we'll have the council and everybody respond. All right. You guys have any? All right.
Federico Zapata.
Say your name for the record.
Federico Zapata, I'm a village. Oh, you're gonna speak? No. Okay, I'm a village resident.
Say your address for us, please.
156 Northwest 89th Street. I wanna express to Mr. Blair that newer developments per code how to comply with the storm retainage requirements, as opposed to probably 95–89% of the existing housing stocks that do not have any storm housing requirements. In addition to that, before that, this was one parcel with one house, basically oversized lot, and not enjoying the full use of the land. Now, the village is gonna have 2 houses paying taxes. And a house like this, brand new, is gonna pay considerably more taxes and benefit all in the community in reducing our taxes in the future. So it's a collaborative effort. So I'm pretty sure, be sure that, and this is not because the developer won, basically, and tell me, I'm the developer as well. I pay attention to a storm retention within a property, because every time it rains more and more, it's harder. So it's a code requirement that newer houses, newer developments must retain water within the property. Thank you.
So, come back. Come back. Let me say, if there is a white car blocking in our clerk needs to go somewhere real quick. It's over here where you see the 2 parking spots. There's a manager spot.
Yeah. We don't have to say.
No, it's not you. No. There's a manager's. Oh, really? Oh, okay. All right. Go, Mr. Blair.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I would like to thank that gentleman for talking about this development that's right beside my property. He made it a point to point out that they'll be paying a considerable amount of taxes, and my concern is not with taxes, it's with the environmental impact of this and how it's going to impact my property and the property of other neighbors. And also, I know that El Portal has a code of ordinances. Chapter 7.5 deals with flood damage prevention. And I would like to, again, hear from you or one of the other developers how you have adhered to this ordinance, and how you have ensured that this will not flood our property once it's finished.
I can field that question, Federico. Blair, thank you for your question. As Federico pointed out, we're required by code to provide a drainage plan with calculations demonstrating that all water will be retained on site. So it's not possible, once you provide this in the site, for it to go over into your property. Additionally, the house that we demoed that was centered on the property, if you recall, adjacent to your property was the driveway. It was all concrete previously. We've removed that. Okay, so the problem that you were experiencing before has been mitigated already indirectly.
I've never experienced a problem.
Okay. So I just wanted to mention that. So we would be designing, as part of showing the calculations, we're required to actually show where the swales exist on the side yards as well as the front. Okay, so it's something that we are definitely taking in consideration. Okay.
Mayor, if I might, the manager and I have consulted with the planning consultant and with the code enforcement officer. So I'm going to mostly defer to our planning consultant, but let me say, we have an ordinance that has some flexibility as to how the water is to be retained. But as the planning consultant will tell you, there is a code provision that says, one that says it has to be retained. There's a code provision about open space. there's a code provision about permeability. So we have several different code provisions. If water were not being retained, it would constitute a violation of our code. And let me defer at this point to our planning consultant. We've discussed this also with the code enforcement officer. So we want to be clear on what our current code does provide, and the mechanism, of course, if the code is violated, is it's a code violation. It can be cited. But if I might, Mayor, I'd like to defer to Ms. Hammonds to talk about it in a little more detail.
Mr. Hammonds?
We want the homeowners, the residents, to get their answer clearly.
My name is Joanne Pollock, and my address is 189 Northwest 88th Street. I just want to know, will our taxes go up since these 2 new homes will be coming into the neighborhood? Will the property of our own taxes go up?
Property values could rise. I mean, property values, they rise and lower depending on the neighborhood. El Portal's had property value rises for the past 3 years. It's just a place that, you know, is sought out for people to come to stay. So as far as taxes going up, property value assessment may go up because of the, you know, the properties that we have in El Portal, but that's not us raising your taxes. So.
And then, Mayor, if I could.
Go ahead, Councilperson.
So just an extra piece of information regarding the property taxes. So if your property is homesteaded,
Yes.
so the property taxes cannot go up on an individual property more than 5%
Okay.
year over year.
Okay.
So
3%.
Was it? 3. Correct me. 3%. Forgive me. Okay. Sorry. I'm not trying to do any favors for Tallahassee. I'll tell you. So, all right. Thank you. Even better. 3%. Forgive me. Okay. 3%. So there is at least a guardrail that was put in some time ago to prevent exactly what you're talking about from, you know, basically snowballing out of control, right?
Right.
And so at least from a property, as long as it's a homesteaded property, you're living in the home, then you are at least buffered from the activity around you. And so because, as the mayor is saying, the property values have gone up year over year, typically the way it works out is you do actually see your property tax bill go up 3% every year, but
not astronomical.
right. But I mean, but for someone who, you know, lives in their property for 20 years, I mean, that adds up, especially if by the time the person is a little bit older, they're on fixed income and things like this. So it's not something to disregard, but at least there are some.
I just wanted to make sure, because
Yeah.
I've been in the El Portal for 40 years.
Yeah. So you a cumulative 3% year over year feels, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, you're right about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
You answered my question. I appreciate you listening.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Ms. Hammonds, I think you wanted to say something real quick, and then.
Just briefly, I wasn't prepared with the code section exactly, but I can just tell you a couple things about what we look for in our review and planning, and then there's an additional review at a building permit level. Again, as was noted, there's grading and drainage plans that are required, and those need to meet all the standards to keep and they have calculations, like technical calculations prepared by an engineer to show that the water is going to stay on site. In addition, we have enacted just recently the provision for maximum lot coverage is 40%, so that provides a lot more permeable area on properties, and that again is another mechanism for eliminating runoff into the streets or into neighbors' yards. So there's a few
And
checks and balances that we go through to make sure that we're looking at these things very closely.
yes, and regarding the 40%, what features would be excluded from that? Like, would a driveway be excluded from that
No.
calculation? Would a patio be excluded? Would a
Patios
pool be
only-
excluded from that
only
calculation?
Pool, do we exclude
Yeah.
pools? I think we include
Pools are
pools.
excluded.
I can't remember if we didn't or not.
Pools are excluded. Driveways, sidewalks, pavers.
Driveways are included.
Pool decks are included. All that's part of our, And we fall well short of the 40% on both properties. We're at 34% on parcel B, and 37% on parcel A, including driveways,
Right.
sidewalks, pool decks, the footprint of the house, all of it. Okay.
Thank you for refreshing my memory.
Thank you very much. You guys want to come back in and say something?
Okay, Mayor Nickerson and the Planning and Zoning Council, thank you for your forbearance. I'm not going to belabor this, but I do want to know where I can access these studies that have been done, because 2 years from now, when this project is finished and there's a heavy rainstorm, I don't want to come out into my driveway and there's 3 inches of water in my driveway and the developers have gone off to another project. So I don't know what the mechanism is for that, but if they could show me something and the other neighbors, I'd really appreciate that.
If I may respond, Mayor, first of all, you're welcome at any point to check with the code enforcement officer to get the details of what the code provides. They, as I said, and Ms. Hammond said, they have some flexibility how to get there, but they must get there. And that would also give you, if the situation occurred, that would also give you the mechanism to complain if there was a problem. The idea, of course, is to keep there from being one. As far as the developer being gone, our codes impose burdens on property owners. So whether the developer is or isn't gone, the property is owned by somebody and they're responsible for compliance with the code. Now understand also, when this approval, if it's granted at the full village council, that grants site plan approval. They still have to go and apply for a permit, a construction permit, which has to get through the building department. And the building department doesn't just say, you know, stamp and go, okay. They'll say, well, how are you demonstrating your compliance with the code requirements about retention of water, drainage, et cetera? And you have to prove that or they won't approve your permit. So they'll still be looking at it. They'll only approve it if it's, theoretically, if it's demonstrated. But even if there's a problem, whether or not they're approved through the permit, if there is a problem that occurs down the road, the owner is responsible for curing the problem to come into compliance with our code.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification, Attorney Geller. We both know that concrete slabs are impermeable when it comes to rainwater. And I would like to know if there's some way that they could use crawl spaces, but I can have that offline. I don't want to take up everyone's time with this.
Yeah, but check with code enforcement, who will tell you how they will review it, and maybe building can weigh in at some point.
Madam Manager.
May I please?
Yeah,
That's
'cause
not a code
it's not a code enforcement matter.
Please don't put that on code enforcement.
Yeah, it's not a code
You
enforcement
need to check
matter.
with the building department. The Florida Building Code would address that in a better place. Code enforcement is just there to enforce the code that was adopted by the village. Building department has the state authority to ensure that those matters are addressed. So you're right, impermeable paving and all of those things need to be addressed with your situation. Let's work with you on that, with our building department. In fact, I know we met with our building official about this matter, and we'll perhaps try to set up something for you to discuss it with him as well. Thank you.
Say your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Kirby Altador. I live in 197 Northwest 88th Street, Miami, Florida. I've been in this part of this community for over 30 years, and I live actually on the street where this development. So there are a couple concerns that I see in this community, and I want to make sure that we address it. The first thing is the assessment of the property value, right? When I look back at our community, we have a community that's been here about 2-3 generations that have lived here and passed it on, and we have an older generation. So when you say the property value that Ms. Pollock has mentioned earlier, and it's partially going to go up, when you have people who are at the retirement age, as they've mentioned, that goes up 3%, that's going to hurt this community. We've seen it happen throughout other parts of the state of Florida, when we look at Tampa, when we look at Pensacola. So that should be a concern right now for this community. The other part that we aren't discussing is the enforcement. I've lived in this community about, again, over 30 years, 35 years. This is the weakest point I've ever seen in enforcement in this community. I've seen it prior to Andrew, I've seen it now. We hear code enforcement is spotty at the best. You can look around the neighborhoods and you can see where the code is selectively enforced. So when I hear code enforcement, I hear question that. I can call here. Before you could call this department and you would get a call back. There are no callbacks. You call, nobody's picking up the phone. So when you tell us there are other means, especially as code enforcement, I don't feel secure about that.
Yeah, I'll respond to that. All right, appreciate you. Okay, so there's a couple of things. With code enforcement, we're just gonna have to disagree on that, because when we got Officer Simmons in for the first time ever, we established the special magistrate. So now, for decades, I've been on the council for 15 years. I was vice mayor for 8 years, been mayor for like almost 5 years. So for decades, our code enforcement used to be a police officer who would do code enforcement. His name was David Atlet, right? Look at Calixto. Calixto's been here for a long time. He's shaking his head up and down. He was a police officer who would do police work. And then when he wasn't doing police work, he kind of look around and see what's up with the code, with the houses. That was just something that wasn't working out. The reason why there's so many things that are out of code was because it was run like that for so many years, to where these codes aren't new. We're just doing over our code now. We're upgrading our code now. So all these codes have been on the books for decades. The reason why all the homes you see that are out of code is because for decades, we didn't have a real code enforcement officer. That's why when you look around, there's so much out of code. Now, what ended up happening was that we finally got a real code enforcement officer. We finally now do a special magistrate every month, Madam Manager. Every month we have that. If you don't know what that is, now, back then, if you were out of code, we put a lien on your property. And you just be out of code. Oh, boy, I thought it was a fire alarm for a second. Oh, that's the thing. Oh. And you just be time. And you just be out of code forever. And we just have a lien. And people would be like, I don't care about this lien. I ain't never moving, so it's never gonna hurt me. So we have liens, Madam Manager, especially when I was a council person, when I started 15 years ago. We have liens to be like, how long has this house been like, this lien been on this house? And this lien been on this house for like 15, 18, 20 years. And the owner's like, I'm never moving, so I don't care about the lien. So nobody was just doing anything. We implemented a special magistrate, Madam Manager, so when we came in, there's a lot of stuff, you guys, that we moved to professional services. So like, for example, when I first became mayor, we used to hire people through El Portal to work the front desk. Amen. El Portal, our budget is small. We can't pay what the big boys pay. People would be with us 3 months, 4 months, 2 months. Oh, found a better job, City of Miami. Oh, found a better job, Aventura. Oh, so then Madam Manager would have to go through new resumes, new hiring process. That'd take a month and a half. So then you have residents start calling and being like, man, I turned my permits in like months ago. I haven't heard anything back yet. Yeah, because now we have to go through and hire. So one of the things we did, so now we outsource the entire front desk. Most of the individuals that you see in El Portal now, they're outsourced to professional companies. So it's not on us anymore to have to, if somebody leaves, to have to replace that person. They're replaced the next day. All right? So we professionalize everything in El Portal. Getting back to your question. So we finally hired a real code enforcement officer. We put in a special magistrate. So now every month, we don't care about the liens anymore. You don't pay your code citation, you go to a real civil court of Miami-Dade County. Every month. We implemented that. Now, when you look around and you see some houses that are out of code, some houses that are in code, so it seems like the code is selective, right? This is what happened. When I became mayor and we hired a real code enforcement officer, he wanted to go around and say, Mayor, all this stuff is out of code. I'm going to make these people rip up that driveway. I'm going to make these people change their roof. I'm going to make these people, I said, listen, our residents can't afford that. So let's do this. Everything that's out of code, we're going to let them stay like that. The moment they go to redo something, they have to fall into code. So, For example, there's a house right over here on Northeast 3rd Avenue and like 89th Street. I'm not going to give you the exact house. On like 89th Street. She's been living there for a very long time. I think it was 32 years or something.
You're right.
Her fence was not in code, but she had a beautiful big backyard. She wanted to get a new fence. Madam Manager, she wanted to get a new fence. When she went and got the new fence, we were like, you got to fall into code. She called me upset. She lost about 7 feet of her backyard because her fence was out too far. So you look around, you're going to see a lot of stuff out of code because I'm not forcing our residents, especially when I became mayor, but like coming out of COVID, I was like, I'm not going to force my residents to have to pay to fall into code because there's so many things that are out of code because we've been doing wrong for so many decades that all my residents are going to have to come out of their pocket to do so many things. But we don't allow shingles in El Portal. There's still some houses with shingles. But the moment they go to redo their roof, they got to either get a tile or metal roof. So you're going to see a lot of stuff out of code, but it's not that we're picking on certain people. What it is that once I became mayor, anything you started to do, any work you started to do after that, we get you. Before I was mayor, if your thing was like that, we're not messing with you right now. If you do any work, you have to fall into code. All right? So that's kind of like what you might be seeing when it comes to that.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, for
No
that.
problem.
But I will challenge you on that,
No
and I will
problem.
tell you that on the professional services, I've come up here on several occasions just to get basic stuff done, and the quality of service is piss poor, right? It's not satisfactory. So even one instance I had to call, we had an instance with people on our trees. We called the front desk, nothing. Came up to the front desk, oh, we don't think we should enforce that. Well, what about people's safety around the neighborhood?
All right, so this is what you're going to do. This is what you're going to do.
I'm just,
Yeah,
and
I got
have
you.
several examples like that. That's why I say the professional services. I've grown up in this neighborhood. My parents have lived here. I've seen my neighbors. There's a quality. So when you tell us that there's going to be an issue, that we can come here and it would be addressed, I don't feel secure. And I would say this, it's not on you. It's on previous administrations. But what I've seen recently, it's just been piss poor.
Yeah, no,
And
and-
even when we call, like, there is nobody to pick up. You literally have to come up here, knock on the door. Hopefully somebody's not at lunch, and they will answer your question.
So this is what you're going to.
Pardon me, sir. We have free speech, but decorum, language, a little bit.
I apologize.
You're good. You're good, man. This is what you're going to do. This is what you're going to do. Because pretty much people out there, Mr. Blair knows, they know, if you have an issue and you feel like let's say you call the front desk, you're not getting anybody, call me. All right? I'm going to give you my card. Call me. Okay? Just call me. Everybody does it, right? Call me. When they have issues, they call me, and then we'll get right to it. All right? So that way you don't have to worry about, even when sometimes when the door be closed for lunch, I'll call Manager Lou. I'll be like, Madam Manager, resident standing outside right now, and we got to let them in. And so just call me, and you'll get right to it. I'm gonna give you my card right now. All right. So I don't know. Like I hear from other individuals, from other residents, that things are much better. But so I don't. I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm not saying that you're not telling the truth, because that's your reality and what you had to experience. So I'm not going to downplay that. But just call me. I'm always available.
Okay.
And if you call me or text me, I'll respond right away. Okay. Email, give me like a day or something like that. But call me or text me, I'll respond right away.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm gonna give you my card right now.
Thank you.
Really quick question. You said recently you had the problems. How recent are we talking about?
At least a year.
In the last year?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. Next, name and address for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank
I'm
you.
George Alvarez. I live at 165 Northwest 88th Street. Nice to see you guys again.
Hey, George.
That's my fear. My fear is I'm going to fall in love with you guys, honestly. That's my concern. So I'm a little unsatisfied by some of the things that I've heard. And I did not fully understand the answers about the water, about flood mitigation, about the water sheeting. And to that effect, I'm going to bring up this address, which I brought up in the past. The address is 85 Northwest 86th Street. On that street is a river of a puddle that traverses 3 houses going east to west it never goes away. It has not rained. It's been a very, very dry winter here. This is usually a dry winter here, but this has been exceptionally dry. That house was renovated, a pool was added, septic was changed, I think, I'm not positive about that, and they added some square footage. It was a significant renovation. Who vetted that? If we are being told that there's not going to be any water on Mr. Walker's property, or there's some people who did not make it tonight. In fact, I've got a whole list of people who have got, issues and questions and could not make it because some of them are out of town, some of them work service jobs, and some of them I think are kind of like afraid to talk in public circumstances. But I would have to put this to both you guys and to the council, who vets it? Because the proof is in the pudding, the proof is in the algae-infested water in front of that house. So I did not understand the answer that Attorney Geller or you guys gave. And where is the proof? Of course, yeah, we can, if there's water all over the street, we can sue the person whose house it's coming from. But I have a letter here from the lady who lives next door to that house on 86. Her name is Marie Lamercie Saint-Ramy. Not bad. Regarding standing water drainage problems from 85 Northwest 86th, she's next door. The property was rebuilt, prior to its sale in 2023, it was rebuilt and renovated. In the renovation, dirt and soil was added to her property. The property was built up from its original level to 3 or 4 feet. So now it's a little hill with the houses on top, but the house is not really that much higher than anything else in the neighborhood. Backyard was built up similarly to accommodate a pool, patio. She spent $700 of her own money to deal with it. Oh, the buzzer. I love the buzzer. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. She spent $700 of her own money. The problem always keeps on coming back. So that was a property that probably underwent the same exact code process. It was less than 2 years ago, and that's the result. So I'm going to end the talk about the water. I think we heard enough from Mr. Walker. It is a concern of mine. There's been Zika, there's been malaria, and we don't have guarantees. I don't know if you guys are obliged to give us guarantees, but I still don't feel good about the lack of guarantees that we've gotten here. But I also want to talk about something a little bit bigger. I kind of feel like there's a breakdown in the thinking and the processes that's going on with how we look at development. Things get confusing, there's municipal code. Things get convoluted, there's enforcement. But the problem still ends up being the problem. If 9 out of 10 residents have problems or concerns about a project, I'd like to know that I'm being listened to.
And you are. You are being.
We're listening.
Thank you, miss. So if 9 out of 10 residents, and as far as I can tell, between 87th Street, which is behind the properties in question, and 88th Street, on which the properties are going to be located, what I hear from everybody is somewhere between mild disapproval and torches and pitchforks. I am a fan of most modern architecture, but I'm also a fan of making things work in the neighborhood for the residents. The conversation about taxes, I believe, is a fallacy, because although people with homestead exemptions do have values tied in and limited by 3%, the equation that's used for a new house that sells at, you guys are like 3,100 square feet, 3,100 square feet, something like that?
Condition 61, 2,600 and 2,700 condition space.
So this is going to be a house that's going to sell between $2 and $2.5 million. I know, my lips to God's ears and all that.
Not sure.
Okay, well, I mean, there's no guarantees in a lot of situations. But what happens is those of us who own those 80-year-old houses, who may not be able to afford a major renovation in that time, are basically paying higher taxes because even though our property has not been improved, the average values of the neighborhood will be improved. I know for a fact that what Miami-Dade County says my house is worth, not its market value, what it's assessed, the lower of the numbers, I could never sell it for that amount. Nowhere near. Now, there's some developers in the audience, I used to work for them, who are like, I'll buy your house for you. And that's great, that's good business. But the thing about taxes that we are hearing is not completely true. And everybody should know that. So we should be very careful about how we bring new properties and new values to our neighborhood. There seems to me to be a compromise approach. The compromise approach, it's not my job to figure it out for you guys. I can think of a lot of cool modern houses that are a little bit more organic looking, to be, you know, vague. I know you're a man of science. You probably don't like the word organic in that way. It doesn't give you much to work with, but I think you know what I mean. There's some softer, modern looks out there. I mean, some of it is landscaping, but if I may, and I'm going to try to speak up, I'm just going to approach these. I mean, right now the lot doesn't have any of these trees or any of this or any of this landscaping. This is beautiful, but it doesn't exist. And you guys, with all due respect, are going to tear down every big tree. There's only two, a mango tree and a sapodilla tree. You may call the sapodilla. Are you going to leave the sapodilla now?
Yes.
Great. Okay.
And the oak tree that's this tree.
Many are existing. There are 9. We're only getting rid of 2.
You're
So
only getting rid of 2.
one is a palm.
Everything else.
Okay.
Giving it back to the neighborhood.
So
Okay.
the mango tree,
That one will go, but we're replacing it with 3 trees on that property.
how
One-
big are those trees?
When they're planted, the landscape architect will, according to code, be able to tell us what size they should be when planted.
When do you anticipate the lot would start to look a little bit more like Tree City El Portal?
That's a good question. We will do our best to have them as mature trees as we can at the beginning. Okay. But make no mistake, the landscaping is central to the whole concept of the project. It has been from the beginning. It's important to us as well.
On your planning, I don't see that many trees. Maybe things have changed since the plan. I saw
We can list the number of trees that we're adding.
I
Give
saw
us a
I saw
second.
the mahogany and I saw. Oh, stop. Sorry.
You've been over 9 minutes, Mr.
We'll give you an
Alvarez.
example. Okay. You want an example?
I've been 49 years, Mr. Mayor.
I understand, but you understand that good and welfare is really not for like testifying for.
Well,
for
this isn't
residents?
good. This isn't good in welfare. It is. I would like to see some compromises being made. We spoke to you. They're pretty basic compromises, and none of them were in the new plans compared to the old ones.
I
Although
understand,
I'm
but-
open-minded to what I'm hearing about the landscaping.
But let me say this. Let me just say this. These were kind of conversations, and you know, when I came and met with you guys, and before I met with you guys, after I said, even before I went there, I said, well, maybe I should bring them with me. You said no. Like,
I said for an initial meeting.
for initial meeting. So these are the questions, and this is the reason why I stated that, you know, they should have been part of those meetings, because this is all the stuff that has to come out then. This is not the stuff, because you're asking, because what's happening is you're asking them things in real time, and even though like they're showing the renderings of what their plan is for planting new trees and keeping trees, you're just at a point where you don't believe them. Like, no matter what they say, you don't believe. Like, you're looking at it and you're saying, like, well, you don't believe it because the original plans didn't show that, or the plans you saw didn't show that. But we're looking right now at the renderings and what they're planning on planting and how they're planning on making it look. But you're still saying you don't believe them. And that's something that should have been done, like an internal meeting. You know, that should have been done in an internal meeting before we even got here, is just my point. That's all.
That's all?
That's all.
Okay, let's look at the bigger point. You know, I didn't let you guys answer. I'm sorry.
If you would like, we'd be happy to share with you the new the new version of the landscape plan, which is very similar to the latest one that you've seen. And I'd just like to add that in every code requirement, we exceed the number of shrubs, plants, all native, and trees. Rest assured, we'll do our part and more to continue with the landscape legacy of El Portal.
We have a list here if you'd like us to read it to you.
How about the shade trees? Because I saw all the gamma grass and I saw the hedges.
So shade tree, shade tree, shade tree.
Get the mic.
I'm sorry.
I also think this is becoming a bit adversarial. I mean, I think the good and welfare, and I completely respect your opportunity to state your feelings, but it is centralized to like what you feel. So I don't know if it's so much of an opportunity for you to kind of directly question the applicant,
That's
but
fair.
just to generally state your viewpoint. So if you can do that within the 3 minutes, I'm sure they can then take note of some of the items and they can compose themselves and respond in a meaningful way. So why don't you tell us what you think? We already know you're concerned about the flooding. We know that you're concerned about the aesthetics. We know that you want to know whether or not this fits within the character of the village. Those types of things I'm very interested in, and I would love for you to continue along those lines, but to probably pause a little with the direct questioning. I think that would speed us up.
Okay, well, that did not come intentionally, and I appreciate
no worries.
you're saying that, and I hope you guys didn't.
No worries. There's a lot of passion in the room, but let's just make sure it just stays cordial, and I think if you just tell us how you feel, that's great, and then you guys can have a moment to respond.
I think that builds like this can be easily neighborhood changing. My concern about this property is that in addition to practical concerns as about the water and the flood mitigation, my concern that it doesn't look like anything else in the neighborhood. There's no house in El Portal other than one on 89th Street that has a 2-car garage front facing. Okay.
Let's let him continue. Just take some notes really quickly.
Sure.
Once he's done with his 3 minutes, then we'll bounce back to you, and then you can let us know.
So everybody's garage in this neighborhood is to the side or in the back of their house. So this is going to be a substantial change. And the thing is, a neighborhood that goes from El Portal to an entirely different community, whether you say Kendall, whether you say Hialeah, whether you say North Miami, it's not done overnight. It's done house by house, or in this case, 2 house by 2 house. It's done decision by decision. And we are at a time in which we have the opportunity to make decisions that would make houses like this a little bit more like the houses that exist in size, in scope, in design that would do things like maybe not put a garage right out front and center, because that does change things, and would maybe use landscaping and trees to both do water mitigation, but keep El Pretel feeling like El Pretel. So I'm getting the silent buzzer from Mayor Nickerson, and I appreciate it, because he is the hardest working man in show business.
Thank you so much for your comment. We appreciate that. This was great.
Thanks for your time, guys.
Thank you very much, Mr. Alvarez. Thank you very much, Madam Vice Mayor. I appreciate that. Mr. Alvarez, I contacted Mr. Walker about the hill, which you were talking about with the house that's on 86th Street. And so the reason why that house is like that is because it depends on where the house is located first. So, and they know this already because I emailed it. But when you're talking about that house on 86th Street, if you guys know, and Madam Manager, we're getting back to hurricane season, and we have a lot of stuff that we've been planning. But if you guys know, 86th Street, when it rains, it floods on 86th Street. And it starts to flood really, really bad on 86th Street, especially when you go west of North Miami Avenue. Even between North Miami Avenue and Northeast 2nd Avenue to El Jardín, it floods really bad. And so the reason why, Mr. Alvarez, that house, not saying that it was done correctly or it was done right, but the reason why that house has that in the front is because it's in an area where there's it floods out. So they raise it and they put the swimming pool in the back, so they put the septic tank in the front. These individuals here, the house that's going to be next to Mr. Walker's, the septic tank staying in the back on that house. So it's not moving from where it is. But the reason why the new, and those who have been doing houses over know that a few years ago, the regulations changed on septic tanks. You now have to have a much larger septic tank. The regulations changed. So what's happened now is if you're in an area where I believe it's like a 2-foot something table, water table, something like that, or whatever, where it floods, you now have to raise your septic tank. And that's where that came from that house on 86th Street, because 86th Street floods out a lot. On 88th Street, you guys don't have that type of flooding at all. Because every time after a storm, I drive in the police cars or in the public works truck, and we analyze the area, and 88th Street doesn't have that flooding at all. So there's not going to have to be any raising for any of these houses that are going across the street from you. Now, it doesn't take away from what you're saying, Mr. Walker, which is just overall, because there's 2 properties coming that are not there now, and that's much more concrete than was there previously. I need to know how the runoff is going to occur and how it's going to take place. And so we definitely need to get the answer for you from the building department. And I know what you were asking. I think it was kind of lost over there, but you were asking with what individuals are saying that now there's a new regulation to where before everything's done, they have to show that the flooding's not going to occur. You were asking, where can I get that information? That's what you were asking. It wasn't about the code. I saw that was lost. And so that, I'm going to search, I'll get that for you, okay? Because that's what I want to know also, with those new regulations. But just and yeah, I'll get it for all you guys. But just for, just a long story long, Mr. Alvarez, that's why that house is raised on 86th Street, and it won't have to be raised for you guys on 88th Street, the property in the front with the septic tanks. Vice Mayor Martin.
This is why they call you the hardest working mayor in the county, because that is one of the questions that I had for Scarlett, whether or not that address had been shared with you, and if you could give us some information about why that was occurring and whether or not it was a permeability issue that was causing it. So I do think it's important when we're comparing things that we're comparing apples to apples. So this helps us contextualize the information that we're receiving. It's not just, hey, there's going to be renovation, which means there's going to be a water issue. There are a lot of things that are happening in that middle part. And also I do want to assure you that the professionals that we do have looking at these things are really knowledgeable. I am not an expert on how water moves. I do not know. But I know that they know. And when they talk to us, they give us a lot of good information about these projects that they're looking at. And they're not only looking at whether or not it fits right now, they're looking at these issues that we are trying to address globally, which is making sure that we do not have a flooding issue, and whatever flooding issues that we do have present, that we are taking actionable steps to remedy that. So I appreciate you giving me that color on that item because that helps me put things in the right place. That was a big question mark for me, so I appreciate that.
Madam Vice Mayor, I appreciate you always. Is there anyone else from the audience about this particular property, these two houses, you guys? Come. Say your name and address for the record.
Scott Kobrick, 8525 Northeast 4th Avenue Road. So I just have I guess a question, first of all. Is this the approval of, would this be the approval of these plans, or?
This would be at the committee level approval. Remember, they have to go to council
Okay.
after this. It's
Got
just the
it.
committee.
Got it.
So.
I just want to note again, I've actually had this issue many times that I've addressed. I'm seeing this for the first time tonight. I was actually just let know by a neighbor shortly before this meeting that this was even happening tonight. I'm on the email list. I've addressed it several times, and did not, and I'm not the only person. Several people that I've spoken to had no awareness that this was taking place tonight. So unfortunately, nobody had a chance to review it, or a lot of people at least didn't. Having said that, I guess just from my understanding about this process, so, of course, Cordino Group has evaluated this, but it appears that there's some residents that are seriously concerned about flooding issues. If this gets approved, I know that another resident had came up and said, well, code enforcement going back, after the fact is a hard way to follow up with these things. And so I guess just the question is especially that, there are issues with notice that have been, very prevalent and existing for a while. And considering that a lot of people haven't, don't know about this, have not gotten a chance to look at it, is there some sort of thought process that maybe these things should be evaluated prior to approving it, even if it is at the planning and zoning, obviously that sets it into motion. And there's just a general thing. No, I have not even looked at this project, so I have no idea whether I think it's the best thing in the world or not. But just as far as process goes and making sure that we are, being there for the residents who are expressing serious concerns about something like flooding, that process has been done. And I guess the answers that I heard from the people who are here, like Cordino Group, to speak about it did not sound, comforting that all of those questions were answered oh yeah, there definitely won't be flooding here from this build. And I think that there are some great ways these days that we could avoid it. And of course, raising a house is one of them, not being, just directly on a slab. My next door neighbors just bought a new house that they thought was new. They paid $1.6 million for it, and they had this year 2 floods that they had to spend another $1 million on fixing it. And I really feel horrible for them. So the person they bought their house from said that this is new construction. We did everything. It was evaluated by by the building department, and everything seemed sound, but they have suffered tremendously this year. So I just want to state that. And thank you very much. Good luck with your venture. And
Thank you, Scott.
All right. Well, I don't know we'll have to get with you about the you not getting the meeting notifications, because for everyone else, this place is full. People get it all the time. And this is the second time this is coming. The first time was back when we had it, I think it was January, planning and zoning meeting, and it was deferred. So this is the second time we're hearing it at the committee level. So I don't know. Look around. Look around. If you were one of 4 people, it would be different. All right, but so I don't know what's going on with that, but people are getting those notifications. So people are getting them. Yeah. All right. Well, if you guys sign up, we'll check. Maybe I don't know what's going on with the email blast, but I don't know. We'll check it out.
If I just may, for the record, quickly, sorry. The notice for this meeting, I think it came Friday, and a lot of my neighbors, you know, they don't look at their email immediately, but a lot of them discovered, because it was in their minds from Friday till Thursday a little bit late, they're not here tonight. But like I said, there's I think there's like 12 or 14 people on my street, not counting probably 7 or 8 on the street behind, who wanted to be here tonight. Now, how much they tell me versus how much the reality is, but these are people, some of whom are on the list, some of whom are not, and I think this speaks to a larger issue that if residents are unhappy about something, we gotta change the system, whether it's communications, code approval, long-winded guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else from the audience? Hearing, seeing none. Any last question or comment? Any questions or comments from the council?
Yes, couple.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Sounds like, can you hear me? It's on. It's on.
Okay.
It sounds like we're not in a place to say yes. We're not in a place to even rule on it. Sounds like we got some real things. Sounds like we've got some things that need to be done. Because I would hate to be on 176 Northwest 88th Street anywhere, and this thing turns out to be a mess. Doesn't sound like people are here because they don't have anything else to do. It's like there's not enough information that's even making me satisfied. That if you build if you build parcel A, parcel B, whatever, and it turns out to be what we feared as opposed to what we know, it sounds like something's missing. To me, I can't see it the way it is right now. I can't see it. I don't understand. I know I wouldn't want it on my street. I'm just being honest. I wouldn't want it on my street. The design is futuristic. It's going to change the entire way that whole neighborhood is. It's futuristic. But I'm not concerned about that. I'm concerned about the real deal of flooding, the real deal of continuance of need for something to happen so it will stop, and the consideration that the neighbors have not been convinced against their nightmares. That's it. That's his mayor.
Thank you very much, Councilperson Lightfoot Ward. Anybody else from the council?
Yes, just, okay, so, welcome back. As you can tell, our residents are quite passionate about the village, not to take anything personally. So two issues that I have. One is the overall size, which I think I'll get over. And the reason for that is it's a 4-3, is that right? And right now we are talking about parcel A, is that correct? Okay. So they're both 4-3s, is that right? Okay. All right. So,
Councilman, for purposes of the presentation, the staff report and the discussion can be about both, but we will vote separately.
very good. All right. So I do want to actually address both as being one of my concerns. I'm sure you remember from the last meeting. So, so I'm not someone who is opposed to modern architecture. I am concerned about mass, like I'm concerned about monolithic mass on our lots. I'm concerned about exceeding like an excessively large property that extends the entire length of the lot back into the lot with its full height, it will create issues of privacy between residents in the future, things like this, just things to consider. So as I look at both of these properties, I feel like I am willing to take one but not both, as I believe I was pretty clear in the last meeting. So the reason for that being that, to one of the residents' points, that you don't really see, I mean, to your credit, it's a unique design that we don't see this exactly anywhere in the village. So there are examples of modern architecture. I don't find them to look like this exactly. There are some that might resemble some of the style, but the styling is certainly, I find it unique and different. So my concern, as I stated last time, is that with both of these properties immediately adjacent to each other, that is the disruption of the feel of El Portal for me personally. So I said it clearly last time, and I'm still at that position. I would like to see two, like, genuinely distinct properties, because as I said last time, these feel like sister properties. I mean, I understand wanting to leave a signature as an architect, because they definitely, you look at them and you would know that it was almost certainly the same architect that would have designed these two, which stands to reason. However, with them being adjacent to each other, it is, as I said last time, it feels distracting. So I would be prepared to vote for one of these designs, but not both. I share the concerns of the residents regarding the grading, regarding flood mitigation. I understand that we are a little bit restricted in what we could even prohibit as a council without risking litigation, I'm sure. But the bay is right there. We have a buffer with the FEC Railway, so it's got to climb Shorecrest in terms of tidal surge from storms, right? So we are an incredibly protected area, to be perfectly honest, here in El Portal. A lot of things have to happen for something like the bay to inundate, the village. However, we have the canal right here. In addition to that, because of the increased development, because of our loss of permeable surfaces in the village incrementally, everyone's staying within code. Corradino's doing a good job of keeping developers honest as far as that goes. But incrementally, we are still losing, permeable surfaces throughout the village. And so accumulatively, these things create, in my mind, long-term flood mitigation risks. So here we are in 2025, our 2060 estimates for sea level rise, which brings the water table with it, right? All of these things are being adjusted on a quarterly basis almost at this point, as people are gaining access to new data, et cetera, right? So I would like to see no concrete pads in El Portal is really what I'm trying to drive at here. I would like to see crawl spaces for these homes. I feel very lucky that I have a home it doesn't have any closets, but it does have a crawl space. So my home is not large. It's 1950 construction, 1,400 square feet, barely, not even. And so, but my home the existing structure is 2,100 secured as far as flood mitigation goes, particularly because it has a crawl space. It's already on a lot that is elevated comparatively to the region surrounding it. Most of El Portal is that way. Our residents closest to the canal are the most at risk because they're in the lowest lying elevation. And you have some pockets in the northwest where you also have just geographically, you have a little bit of indentation in the land, what have you. So you get flooding over there, primarily why we started our stormwater mitigation phase 1 towards that area. So the point being that I share these concerns. You can hear everyone's concerns. So those concerns will remain until there will be proof after construction that they were true. So it's just everyone's going to have to take faith, I believe, on this issue. And that's a little bit difficult. And so I go back to, for my own personal belief here. I am willing to take one of these designs. I do not see a scenario where I'm willing to take both at this time. So I'll just say that as reiterance of my comments from last meeting.
Thank you very much. Anybody else from the committee?
Yes, I have one. It's just correcting something. You guys were going to either respond, or I told you to take notes, and then you were going to get to say what you wanted to say. Yes, the time has arrived. Yes, the time is here.
Yeah.
I just don't want to feel like I took away your opportunity
Thank
to
you.
say that.
You want to start?
Yes, thank you again for your concerns. They were heard loud and clear the last time. Since then, we have made changes. Maybe they may not be as obvious to you. We have changed materials. We have changed the roof of one of the garages to make sure that it does not look identical with the neighboring property. We've changed landscaping, one to be more shade tolerant, one to be more sun loving. So we're trying to differentiate as much as possible. I will let the architect talk about crawl spaces and specific code, compliance as it relates to new construction and how homes are being built, if you want to take that one.
Okay, so again, this particular property is at flood zone X, so it's not in a flood zone. Additionally, the homes are intentionally sited, centered on the property. We're exceeding the side setbacks over actually doubling and tripling on either side. So we're not right up to the 5 feet like we're allowed to. We intentionally have a more linear scheme, partly for that reason, okay? The issue of flood mitigation is proven through calculation, okay? You have what's called a soils test that gives you the permeability of the property. The permeability of this property might be different than the 4 properties over. Okay, so you understand how the ground is going to receive the water, and you base that into your calculation that gives you the size and length of your swales. Okay, and again, with the added setbacks on the sides, we have more than adequate area to have these depressions and to retain the water on the site. So that's not an issue.
Just to add to that, for those who are not in the construction on a daily basis. The swales are created during construction with depressions. It's done with heavy machinery where they will provide a dip, if you will, in your lawn, right? For the water, rainwater is catched, right? For then the soil and landscaping to absorb that, okay? So I think for many people, they just don't understand how water stays within the property. I just want you to understand that it is a grading plan that is provided through calculations that does get approved under a code review. A licensed general contractor oversees the construction. An inspector comes and verifies that it is done correctly. So rest assured, we will do everything in our power according to code and exceed expectations to make sure no rainfall water runs off to neighboring properties and onto the street.
Okay. Additionally, I think it was mentioned before, but the driveways in one case is concrete. Okay. The other one is a turf paver, which is 40% permeable. In both cases, for both properties, we include the impervious aspect of the driveway as part of our calculation. So we are well under the maximum, okay? And lastly, I wanted to actually give you a nod, Mr. Urban, because you pointed us to make a change on the garages, and we actually feel that it made the project better. I don't know if you've seen it. This is what we had previously, right? Which was very similar to this. So now I was just pointing out, thank you, that that's what we had previously.
You're an architect as well.
Yeah.
And I'd like to address your comment about the size. The house that was on that property previously that's recently been demolished was over 3,000 square feet. Again, we are not asking for any variances. We have designed these homes to code. We have, in the majority of cases, in terms of setback, heights, maximum square footage, we have been well within those parameters. So we don't feel we're extending or building up to the edge of what's allowable. We're being very conservative and mindful. In addition to that, The front of the property is just a one-story, if you notice. The second story is towards the rear. So we're trying to bring the scale down to the street to mimic the size of the homes on that street.
And to further that, the second story are 2 bedrooms and a shared bath. They're as small as we could and as efficient as we can possibly make them. And line of sight with the neighbors, and the backdoor neighbors, side neighbors have been part of the consideration of the location of the windows. Many of the windows that you see are just to bring natural light into the house. They're in fact clear story windows, like above this door, where you're just looking at the tree canopy or the sky. Okay, yeah.
Other windows that are on the second floor belong to a bathroom, and those are obscured. So again, a privacy glass.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
nobody said anything about the property value. I need to know, what is that property value gonna be? Because what I see is different from what's already there. What's the property value? What are you shooting for? You're the contractor.
Do you mean what we anticipate to sell the property at once it goes for
Exactly.
sale? We calculated 2 million.
To what?
2 million. 1.8 to 2 million is what we calculated, based on other comparables in El Portal that have sold in similar size and price per square foot
But not on that street.
in El Portal.
Yeah.
But not on that street.
Right.
Okay.
Anyone else from the committee?
I just wanted to say that I appreciate that you worked with us so much over the last 3 months, multiple meetings. You submitted a lot of ideas, and when we told you what some of the residents wanted, you were willing to change things, and you made those changes, and I appreciate you doing that. I also want to let you know we appreciate that you took the time and took us on tours of the property. You didn't let me climb a tree, and you and I discussed about how important the landscape and the trees were, how it's important not only for El Portal, being a tree city, but also it helps with the water permeability. It also helps with everything else that we're doing here. But
Yeah. Shade. Yeah.
yeah, with shade. But the main thing is I think you guys have worked very diligently to try and meet all of our needs. And I want to thank you for taking the time so often, honestly. I mean, I think we saw each other almost every other week. But you guys really worked hard to try and make this work. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilperson Winters. Anyone else from the council, from the committee?
Just a quick little comment.
Vice
I appreciate all of the comments, and I take it under consideration and understand where everyone is coming from. And I think Councilman Erbaum did a good job of kind of wrapping it up. For me, it's like there's a certain element of faith that's required in this analysis, where it's you say yes to something and you hope you don't regret it later. And I think that that is always a scary thing to do. For me personally, when I sit up here, I know that there are certain things that we look at objectively, and Scarlett guides us to, as far as whether or not this is to code, right? I think you said it over and over again, and it's true, like you're not seeking any variances. I mean, they own the property. I think to myself whether or not I would want my neighbors to have the determinative say as to what my property can look like. So when I think about aesthetics, I can think about what I would want to live in, but I don't know whether or not that is the barometer within which I would evaluate this. I look to Scarlett, I say, hey, is this to code? As far as you know about mitigation, permeability, like have they taken the steps? I get feedback from Scarlett, yes. Also, Councilman Winters has just spoken about, I have not climbed trees at your property, but he just spoke about your willingness to take the feedback and ensure that our vision for the village, things that are currently in the village, that you are in some way trying to stay in line with that. I do also think that it's important to respect people's rights on their property, to make things aesthetically what they would like it to be, as long as it is not something that is jarring, completely incompatible, against the code, all of those things. So when I'm analyzing this situation, I do hear everyone in the audience, and I think it's important, but I also have to weigh that against the fact that there aren't any things that Scarlett is telling us that is against the code, or any, I think, glaring incompatibilities that are not somewhat informed by a subjective element that I'm not necessarily, I don't want to be dominated by in considering this decision. So, yeah, it's a tough decision. I want everyone to know that we're listening, and I think we have an additional comment, but I don't want us to lose the perspective of the applicant in this as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Last one, my brother. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
thank you again for letting me speak. One of the things that hasn't been addressed, and one of the councilwomen has said it, is the taxes perspective, right? And let me put this, let's look at this. I have an MBA from Wharton, so I know numbers, right? So I know what's going to happen. So at the end of the day, when you look at the people that live on that block, and I've been there 30 years, my parents have been there 40 years. So you have an age group that's going to retire, that's on a fixed income. We're seeing what's going on currently in the economy, and we have examples of other areas. Now you're telling us our taxes are going to be raised in that with our parents who are living on a fixed income. Several people on that block are retired. They don't make, their incomes aren't going to rise. It's going to stay consistent. They're dependent on Social Security. With this new two of them, how does that impact? We need a quantitative assessment to understand that, right? You have that entire block that is going to be negatively impacted because the value is going to increase. That 3% that's going every year that's rising, inflation is usually 1 or 2%. No, actually the economy, GDP actually grows on 1-2%, right? You're saying on 3%, and we're seeing that this is the first of many that can come in there, and we're going to see several more of these houses. We've seen examples of this coming into the property, into the area right now. And somebody's mentioned this is one of the places that when you're moving outside of Brickell, everybody wants to come in here, right? So now let's assess this and let's look at our residents, and let's look at our profile. Will they be able to afford this with these property values and the taxes that they have to pay? I can tell you right now, I can do the numbers in my head and I'll tell you that no. So when we say and we look at these properties and we ask these questions, yeah, you're up in the code and you're doing work, but we have people that we've grown up together that's been 2-3 generations here, and we're seeing how they're going to be negatively impacted. This is not a decision that's going to be like one. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon, and this right here is going to impact for generations. This is where people are trying to pass down something that doesn't even address what happens when you want to pass that house down to your son, your daughter. The taxes that they have to pay now, can they afford it? If their parents couldn't, do you think they can?
No.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
No problem. Thank you very much, my brother. Appreciate it. Just say your name and address, full name and address.
Elida, 12 Northeast 19th Street. Thank you for that. So the first thing, since tonight it's all about the new developments, sort of like, or variance, and we're discussing, please be very considerate that our village, I've been here for 10 years, and to be honest, before I didn't realize much, but with the time we came into the realization that what is the thing that makes the most difference in our neighborhood are the trees. And I do see that in the back you did not have any trees, but in the front, which I'm assuming that'll be, you've added a little bit more trees. Yeah. But from the experience, what I've seen in my neighborhood, when a new developer comes into our neighborhood, either because they don't live here, either because they don't understand the importance of it, but the first thing they do is they actually cut down the trees. And that is exactly why you will be able to sell this property for $2 million, just because of those trees. Let alone that why we appreciate our neighborhood so much is because of the trees. So I appreciate that Council Winters emphasized that, but please, I would I would please encourage also the other council members, please keep that in mind. Let's create either, I don't know, a video to educate anyone that wants to come into our neighborhood, develop. I'm pro development, just so you know, like I would, appreciate that. It's just that when it comes to the trees, I've seen that over and over and over, that from the experience, if you go on 90th Street and First Avenue, if you happen to drive there, you will see that the same developer has wiped 2 houses from the trees. And what they added 1 palm tree, because that's what's requested from our code. You're replacing a tree with a tree. Replacing an oak tree with a palm tree, those are 2 different things. So I'm sure that you have added in your renderings, and I'm sure you appreciate that, and you will be adding that. But also to other developers, I know it's not gonna make a big difference, but it was mostly from the council members. Please try to emphasize that. It sounds, it's a tree, and maybe it's the last thing on your project priority, but please place that, because that's why you are able to sell at $2 million. Otherwise, if you were in another neighborhood that does not have trees, that property will never sell for that value. So please save our trees. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate Councilperson
Thank
Winters for speaking on that also. They'll tell you my only thing that I suggested was, what about?
Landscape and trees.
When I spoke to them, I said my number 1 thing was
Landscape and trees.
and I told them, I said the essence of El Portal is
Landscape and trees.
so that's what it was. So we got your back. The council has your back. On
Mr.
that.
Mayor, quick question.
Yes.
I think my question would help just for, if I could just ask, because I
Go ahead.
actually
Don't go anywhere with this. Go ahead.
actually
Go ahead,
need you to
Councilperson.
clarify. So, Mr. Mayor, if I had a mind to say I'm not going to vote for any new construction that's going to have a sale value approximated of more than 1.5 million, would I be able to? Yeah, I see the attorney already
No.
shaking his head. No,
No, you
right?
can't do
So, right. So that's kind of where I'm at, like in the mass discussion, like how big the property is, right? So I have my personal feelings on what I want to see. I say this all the time. In Miami, I don't think anybody should build above the tree line. Obviously, I am in the minority on that vote, and I am outvoted consistently on that everywhere around this county. I'm not going to get my wish on that, right? And so I just bring that up to say that there are certain things that, as a council we look at and we are able to either prohibit or use as a calculus to, vote yay or nay on certain items. But then on other issues, there really isn't much that allows us to, put specific types of restrictions on, or the reasoning behind why we're going to vote yes or no because of the property rights that property owners have. So I just wanted to, how I like to play devil's advocate for the benefit of the public, so there you go.
Oh, no problem. We always appreciate you, Councilperson Irvin. I have some stuff to say about that, which is along those lines that I'll say. Go ahead, Mr. Navarro.
Hey, I just wanted to say my name, Calixto Arturo Navarro from 335 Northeast 87th Street. I live right down the street. First of all, I want to thank everybody that's here tonight, mayor, council, attorney, city manager, and all the staff that's here this evening. Number one, a story on history and a story on why we are where we are at today in El Portal in Miami. Nobody would have ever imagined 100 years ago that Miami would be like this, okay? We cannot stop development. Whoever thought we would have electric cars, whoever thought we went from horses and carriages to combustion engine. And whoever thought that we would, that they would revive Henry Flagler's vision and we would have the train with passengers again that had disappeared in 1935. So what I'm trying to say is, just in general to any new construction that goes on here, and we have a lot and we've seen all this happen in this city. I am all for it, as long as we do our due diligence as a village and as people that live here, and we are a small community. We cannot stop people. We cannot stop development. We cannot stop it. What we can do is work together with them, okay? That house over there to the left, it could easily be my house. My house looks like that. It's a 1950s mid-century house, something Frank Gehry would have designed back in the days, or the other great mid-century architects of the time. And even that one is a mid-century. It goes in line with El Portal. Yes. There's lots of mid-century homes, and one of the beautiful gems is the one sitting back here on the river. So it's okay. I support, I think the water issue is the issue, but we have other lingering issues here in El Portal. And I think that with what is happening today at the bigger scope of our national government and state government, the funding to switch from septic to sewer, drainage, and all these issues are probably not going to happen so for a long time. So we can't stop what is going on. And I think that the codes that Dade County applies to everyone in the county, they have to abide by. And their elevations and water and everything, because these are things, I've been to the other meetings here where the water management people have been here and discuss all these issues. And, you know, I was one of the big proposers of removing the dam and letting the river flow freely. Well, we're in 2025, you can't do that because all the salt water would come into the village and we would have a great disaster here. So something that was thought of in the 1970s. When did it happen, Dr. Ward?
Yeah.
When did they do that, Dr. Ward? You were here.
Yes, I was.
In the what, 70s, 80s?
It was
In the
late 70s.
late 70s, early 80s, okay? And now we can't revert the river back. We can't revert the flow of that little river. So what I'm saying here is that I understand a lot of the concerns, and I know my neighbors, and I know all my neighbors that had lived here who bought these houses back here in the 40s, and they've been and I've watched a lot of them sell their homes and move on, and I will eventually have to sell my home and move on. Now, in terms of tax, I am a realtor. The county sets the increase, not the village. This has nothing to do with it. The people sitting there in the county offices, all they look at are what they need. Okay, so everybody across the board in Dade County, 3%. It has nothing to do with that. Now, what you guys do, Omar and I, you increase the millage rate. And I think you just did that recently.
No, we never
you
have.
don't do that?
We never have increased the millage rate.
You never increased the millage
increased
rate?
it,
I
no.
thought you had
Never
done it. I'm
increased
sorry.
it. No.
And forgive me for
No,
that.
we did. Never increased it.
And then lastly, and I'm going to do this big push, okay? And I'm going to close with this. I have started to switch all my landscaping from non-native plants, and I've been ripping out all non-native plants, and I'm strictly doing native plants. I still haven't gotten to the point of ripping out my beautiful green hedge that took 10 years to grow, but it's a podocarpus, and it's extremely, extremely invasive in South Florida. But I will get to that eventually. But I still haven't gotten to the point there. And I will do a natural hedge. So I urge you not to bring imported plants, to use native Florida plants. And I will tell you this, and I'll tell all the residents, you do it little by little. It's wonderful, and the amount of birds and butterflies I get in my home are incredible. And the landscaper told me that, and I really didn't believe him at first, but it's true. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Appreciate that.
Okay.
All right, before I start to close this out, any last questions or comments from the committee?
One last comment, 10 seconds.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so in all of this, from the perspective of sitting on the council, we have developers come and present things to us. Part of the calculation is how long does that developer plan on being in the village, right? So if it's someone who's planning on building new construction and selling and leaving, then there's a whole, or if someone's coming in and flipping a property, there should be a heavier weight consideration for someone who is building and planning on remaining. I will say that. And then additionally, to someone's point, as far as what was in North Miami or other places you can find, if El Portal does not maintain its character, so like if we do not maintain the character of El Portal, we will be 100% susceptible to whatever is happening in the real estate market. In the largest, we're just going to become part of Miami-Dade County statistics, and I think that part of an insurance program for El Portal against these types of cyclical fluctuations in terms of mitigating the severity of them, both up and down, because a spike in property values usually only benefits a small number of people, and is usually a spike in property values can change a community overnight, basically, on who immediately decides to sell and who's deciding to come into that village. So we are certainly a incredibly inclusive village as far as not excluding anybody out of El Portal, but the ambiguous consideration of what is the character of El Portal is the discussion that I think that's maintained its consistency tonight, because that is the thing that has to be protected for us to be able to navigate the uncertainties and the cyclical nature of these things as we go through the future, as well as to, do right by the residents who live here.
Thank you very much. Anybody else from the
Super
committee?
quick, super fast.
Good.
To the gentleman in the corner that went to Wharton. I have a brother-in-law that went to Wharton as well. I want to chat with you some more. I know we're going to have a long meeting, just in case. I would love to chat with you some more about the affordability issue that you highlighted. I think it's definitely a super important issue. It's very pressing. It's at the front of mind for a lot of folks. I don't know whether or not at this level and this type of ad hoc enforcement would move the needle on that, but I would love to talk about just more globally El Portal's stance on that, positioning on that, and whether or not there's something that we can discuss about with the county as to how that could be impacted. So if you can stick around, or if you can't stick around, the clerk's not here, but drop your info so we can have a meatier conversation about that.
Very
All right,
good.
one
Vice
more.
Mayor. Sounds good.
Okay.
Anybody else from the committee?
Yeah, is this working? Did it stop working? Here it goes. All right, I want to take a moment to sincerely thank everyone that came out tonight and spoke about their concerns, your time, your input, your passion for our village. This is what makes us El Portal. And these conversations are what connects our community. As the Vice Mayor mentioned earlier, at the end of the day, the property does belong to the builders. And as long as they follow the building code, then they have the right to develop it. And if not, if we don't like this, we need to change the building code. We need to actually state what we want El Portal to be. And I know we're doing a lot of that right now. I do want to reiterate that they have gone above and beyond in working with us to make concessions, to address many concerns. It's been a collaborative process, and I appreciate it from all sides. One of the concerns that everyone just spoke about was the property values. And I understand that change can sometimes feel uncertain, but I also want to recognize the larger trend happening around us. Because just 4 blocks north of us is Miami Shores. The property values are skyrocketing. Now, when you're looking at the property values, when you're selling a new home, you look up to a mile. This means whatever they're doing over there, and they're selling houses for $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, $4 million, it's going to raise house values over here that are 3 blocks away. There's no way we can control that. We're not going to go to Miami Shores and say, hey, guys, stop selling for such expensive prices. So this is a reality. we shaped by a market that it's a radius of, you can throw a stone at it. So that said, what we have to do is control how we grow. When development is done thoughtfully with community input, like we've seen here today, it strengthens our village rather than disrupts it. So again, I want to send my thanks out. I appreciate the residents sharing their voices tonight and their willingness to engage as we discuss about these properties.
Thank you, Councilperson Winters. Anybody else from the committee? No? All right, so here's where we're at. Okay, so, the mayor brings it all together. All right, so these are our choices. So we can, remember, this is the first reading because it has to go to full council before it's passed through and they can do anything. All right, so we can either vote this through as is. That's option number one. Somebody can make a motion to vote this through as is. Somebody can make a motion to defer it again. Somebody can make a motion to, Councilperson Urban, vote through one house right now, I guess.
Separate vote.
There's going to be separate votes, but I'm saying we can do that also. Those are kind of the options, or things could just die as far as no motion. Those are pretty much the options. So, do I have a motion for anything up here?
I'll move to approve parcel B.
Okay, we're going to take them one at a time anyway, so we'll come to parcel.
I'll second it.
All right, so we have a motion, we have a second for approval of parcel B. Attorney Geller, can you please do a roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Okay, on the motion to approve the presentation and the request, the site plan for parcel B, Councilperson Winters,
Yes.
Councilperson Lightfoot Ward,
Keep going. Not ready yet.
No, we go, and this is,
I don't want to do that right now.
well, you just have to pass and say you don't want to vote then at all.
gotta vote
You
something.
got to vote.
Yeah, or abstain.
Yes.
Yes. Councilperson Urban,
I vote yes.
Vice Mayor Martin,
Yes.
Mayor Nickerson.
Yes.
Passes 5-0.
Do I have any motion for parcel A?
So moved.
Second.
To move, I'm sorry,
Moved by Vice Mayor Martin for parcel A.
to do what?
To accept staff's recommendation on it.
Oh,
Approve it.
okay, a motion
Yeah.
in favor by the Vice Mayor,
And the
Seconded by Councilman Winters.
Seconded by Councilperson Winters.
seconded by Councilperson Winters. Okay, on the motion to approve by the Vice Mayor, seconded by Councilperson Winters. Councilperson Winters,
Yes.
Councilperson Lightfoot Ward,
Yes.
Councilperson Urban,
No.
Vice Mayor Martin,
Yes.
Mayor Nickerson.
Yes.
Passes by a vote of 4-1.
Thank you,
Mayor,
guys.
the next item would be item F5.
Yeah. F5, but before, so just make sure you got to come to the full council, okay? That's your last and final. So, just make sure that you might want to still reach out to the committee members that who will be council members at that point and see if they have any, anything that they want to still address. Also, Mr. Walker, Blair, we'll be getting in touch with you because we also kind of want to know the process for new properties and how you guys need to be able to pass a certain threshold before you can get approved with the drainage and stuff like that. So we'll be talking about that also.
Thank you. Can I ask if anybody has my notes that might have been up at the podium and accidentally took them away?
Oh, did somebody
because
accidentally take her
I
notes?
need my notes.
Do we have
Anyone, can you look in your papers?
Any notes through your papers?
Please?
Our planner and zoner
I'm
needs
kind
some
of-
notes. I hope it's not somebody who left already,
I
Scarlett.
know, me too.
Oh, you got
Oh,
one. Okay. But if Mr. Walker had them, they in good hands. I'm not worried about anything,
Hope she got the notes.
All right.
Is that good or? Oh, so. Right in front of the camera.
You can put it on this side of the. For the people or for us? We have it. Yeah. Show the people. Show the people. show the people. Show the people.
I want an aquarium as a wall.
All right, while they're setting up, hello, everybody.
Hello.
All right. While they're setting up, we're on F5. This is 460 Northwest 90th Street, new site plan. Ms. Hammonds, if you want to go through kind of your report and your recommendation while they're setting up, please.
Okay, this is a request for site plan approval for new construction of a new residence at 460 Northwest 90th Street. The site is 7,500 square feet, and currently there is an existing home that was built in 1955. The proposed residential use is permitted under the code, and the proposed home is to be 1 story and will be a total of 2,363 square feet. We'll have 3 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, a 1-car garage, and a covered rear terrace. The home was reviewed under the development standards of the code and is consistent, and no variants are requested. The proposed design of the new residential represents a somewhat contemporary architectural style, and the proportions and scale of the residence are viewed to be compatible with the neighborhood homes. For that, we are recommending approval with no conditions.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments from the committee? Hearing, seeing none. Any
I want to
questions?
ask a quick
Go ahead,
question.
go ahead.
Do those doors open up to the waterfall?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Do the doors open up to the waterfall, like the whole back of the house opens up?
Oh, no. So there's a, you're talking about the water feature going down right there, right?
That's not a waterfall?
Yeah, it's the waterfall into the pool. Yeah. The water feature into the pool. Yeah. You
So
could
the
there's
glass behind it, does it open up to make one big open area?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the idea, to like have an interior, exterior feeling space.
So it's there when you need it, but you can remove it and have open air?
Exactly.
Okay.
That's the idea. Yeah. So if I may, my name is Andres Barros. I'm the architect. This is Angelica and Umberto. They're the owners, and this is their dream home that we're building. So we're not developers. We're not flippers. This is their home, spec'd by them. Personally working with them. So a lot of love is going into this home. And if I may, I'm just going to present the project. So good evening, council members. Good evening, community of El Portal. Thank you for the opportunity to present this design for a modern single-story home. The goal with this project is to create a home that not only enhances the character of the neighborhood, but also integrates thoughtfully with the existing aesthetic of the community. The design of the home embraces a modern architectural style while respecting the established look and feel of El Portal. I was inspired by the masonry modern architectural style outlined in the El Portal design guidelines. The style emphasizes strong, clean lines, the use of durable materials, and a connection of nature, all which are reflected in the design. The use of the layered roof lines adds depth and visual interest without overwhelming the surroundings. A careful, curated mix of materials, including natural stone, wood, and neutral tones, ensures that the home complements the area's architectural diversity rather than starkly standing out. So some features of the home, there's the feature wall. The home's defining element is the white rock-clad feature wall, which serves as a grounding element for the structure, tying together both roof lines. The texture of the stone adds a natural touch that harmonizes with El Portal's lush and organic setting. The built-in planter, which is on the facade, integrates into the facade. The planter reinforces the connection between architecture and nature, contributing to the greenery that defines the village. The pervious paver driveway. The environmentally conscious choice supports the natural drainage system, minimizing runoff and preserving the ecological balance of the site. So it's a single-story home. The modest scale of the home respects the residential character of the neighborhood and maintains a human-scale presence that aligns with the surrounding homes. So There's the pervious driveway, which mitigates stormwater impact, supporting the community's ecological values. The integration of natural materials ensures a timeless look that evolves gracefully within the neighborhood. And the design prioritizes visual harmony, embracing a modern language while preserving the area's historic and natural charm. So, as you can see, it's a one-story home. It's their lifelong home that they're building. And we'll take any questions if you guys have any, or any from...
Questions, comments from the committee? Hearing, seeing none. Questions or comments from the audience about this particular property? Come up. Come on up. Repeat your full name and address for the record.
Calixto Navarro, 335 Northeast 87th Street. First of all, thank you for the council, mayor, and all the people present. First thing, wanted to welcome you to the village of El Portal, to the new residents that will be here. And I'm sure you're going to find this village wonderful. It's a wonderful place to live in. And great neighbors, great everything. And basically just wanted to welcome you, and I support your project, and I hope you make this your home forever.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's beautiful.
Federico Zapata, 156 Northwest 89th Street. I'm also a Village of El Portal resident for almost 10 years, and I really approve the project. Really well executed, really well designed, excellent selection of materials, and if you need any help with construction, let me know.
Thank you. You know what's funny? Somebody mentioned before, like, oh, you're going to be taking out the oak trees and putting in a palm tree. We're actually doing the opposite. Right now, the site is pretty barren. There's one palm tree in the front. We're removing it and we're putting in 2 oak trees.
Perfect. We love it. We love it. We love it.
The shade. It's all about the shade.
Any other questions or comments from the audience? You guys good? All right, back to the council. Do I have a motion to approve?
You do.
Motion by Councilperson Lightfoot Ward. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilperson Erbaum. Attorney Geller, can I please have a roll call, please?
On the motion to approve, Councilperson Winters.
Yes.
Councilperson Lightfoot Ward.
Oh, yes.
Councilperson Erba.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moore.
Yes.
Mayor Nicholson.
Yes.
Passes by, the motion to approve passes by a vote of 5-0.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Remember, you guys have to come back for the full council. Starting tomorrow, remember, you got to get the sign. Yeah. It'll be available starting tomorrow, anytime from tomorrow on. Because she has to do them first.
Okay, we'll be back tomorrow.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, just go to the front desk, they'll have it. Okay. And then all you have to do is, leading into the council meeting, like a couple weeks before, just put the sign out in the front of the property. Okay? That's what you got to do.
After the council meeting?
No. Like tomorrow when you pick up the sign.
10 days.
Yeah.
10 days prior to the April general council meeting.
Oh, the sign's got to be up 10 days prior? Or
Yeah, but you just put it
We're
up.
just gonna put it up
Put it up
today.
once you
I
get
don't
it
want
because you'll be
anything
safe.
stopping.
Yeah, so you don't have to think about it. All right? Yeah,
Thank you.
it's all good. Okay, thank you. All right, they're gonna set up a thing real quick, so we'll take a couple minutes. You guys just kind of chill, get a drink of water, go to the bathroom. For everyone who signed up for the El Portal email blast, make sure
There you go.
there's no email in your clutter, your junk mail, your spam mail. And if you feel like there's still no email there, go to the website tonight, put your name in. All right? Few people that were in here when that was said earlier. I got 3 texts here, and they said, Mayor, we were signed up, but when I first found it, it was in my clutter. So make sure it's not in your clutter. Make sure it's not in your junk mail. Make sure it's not in your spam. Remember, it's an email blast, so your email might think that it's just like a promotional blast. Right? It's not like just a one-on-one straight to you. So keep that in mind. If all in doubt, it takes 30 seconds. Just go to the website, go to the bottom, put your email address in there again.
Should we just take this one and try to connect directly to the TV?
Plug it directly in. What input was that you put?
3.
3. Is it try number 1?
This one, USB. Maybe can we just take this one and connect it on 3 here? Just take this cable and connect it to 3. Yeah, bring it.
Yeah, take the cable off on that side.
Okay, there you go. Should be. Okay. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, dale.
All right, we're back. Okay, so we're gonna do the same thing with this one that we did for 3 and 4. So we'll talk about, or you want to do them individually? You want to talk about both at the same time? Both at the same time?
We can talk about both at the same
Okay,
time
so
and both individually.
we'll talk about both at the same time, you all, F6 and F7, and then we'll vote individually on them, lot 13 and 14, okay? All right. Scarlett, Scarlett's over here now. All right, we'll start off with her. So we know this was deferred from last time, just give a little background, your recommendation, staff recommendation, and then we'll switch over to you.
Yes. Yes, this came before you in January with some design concerns, and the applicant has made some concessions to that with the new submittal. This applicant, just to remind you, is Sanctuary Venture LLC. They're requesting site plan approval for construction of 2 new residences at 8750 Northeast 4th Avenue Road, and these are lots 13 and 14. Previously, the application did include a new home on lot 15, but that does contain an existing home, and now the proposal is that home will remain as it is. This site consists of 3 lots that total 19,065 square feet, and again, currently developed with 1 single-family home that was built in 1960, and that, again, will remain. The Existing plating includes 3 individual lots as parcels that have never historically been united, but currently accommodate only one single-family home, and they all share the same address at present. The property appraiser has also assigned one folio number to all 3 lots, and each of the lots currently share the same address. The applicant seeks to use the existing 2 vacant parcels to build 2 separate dwellings, and again, this is not required to be replatted because these lots have always been separate lots. Each new resident of the 2 that he's proposing are 2 stories and feature open courtyard separating 2 sides of the first level. The first lot is lot 13. It's a 2-story structure of 4,211 square feet. And the new home will have 4 bedrooms and 4.5 bathrooms and a 2-car carport. The sanctuary corner is lot 14, also a 2-story house with 2,507 square feet. The home will have 3 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms, no garage or carport. These homes were reviewed under our code and found to be consistent, and they are not requesting variances. The proposed design for these residents represents a contemporary architecture, which our applicant's going to explain to you. And they do vary a little bit from the older traditional styles, but they are found to be in proportion and scale of the residents overall comparable to the neighborhood homes. For that reason, staff is recommending the approval for these 2 new residents on 2 lots.
All right, go ahead with your.
All right, good evening, Planning Commission members, Major, and residents. My name is Federico Zapata. Like I said before, I'm a proud village resident for 10 years. I live at 156 Northwest 89th Street, El Portal. And I want to begin sincerely thanking village staff, zoning staff, for the recommendation of approval. It's been a rewarding pleasure working with you. The property is located directly across Village Hall. The 2 vacant lots involved in this proposal have never seen development. Before I begin, I would like to ask this Madam Manager 2 questions. The first one will be, does vacant lots cost village money? And the second one, what is more beneficial to the village, a vacant land or a built parcel?
No, a vacant lot is under, it does not bring the village any kind of tax revenue. And obviously, we would love to see developed communities that, aren't vacant or left barren. We would like to see a thriving village with beautiful, development or homes and landscaping.
Appreciate your response. So what I think about development and parcels paying taxes, and the more we have parcels built that pay land, we have a budget, and that project is going to spread across 2, 3. Tonight we saw, including ours, is going to be 5 properties that are going to be paying property taxes that were not paying property taxes before, just taxes for the land value, pretty low. And recent homeowners on brand new properties pay around, and I have seen on the top of $50K on property taxes. That's how much a brand new property will pay. Whereas some of the existing property owners pay between $4,000 to $8,000. Sometimes they pay low, sometimes they pay more. With that said, that brings us to a very sweet note on what I will be removing. And it's a very portrait. Tree number 12 is a live oak located on site, and it has been assessed by their certified arborist as being very poor condition, with only 15% bigger. It displays poor foliage density, declining vitality, and is described in being in the final stages of its life. As such, removal of both is both environmental responsible, necessary for safety, and site viability. I want to first state here that there's existing oak trees on the property, and we won't be cutting down any trees. What we are doing here is requesting the relocation of 3 very large oak trees. We call these trees, for the record, is trees 14, 15, and 16 on the site plan approval that we propose. And I want to talk about Tree Motion, and it's a company that we have contracted. It's a certified company that has been in business for many years, and as you can see in one of their photos, they have done multiple tree relocations, especially oak tree relocations. And the diagram that you see on the screen, and I can share this with you after, shows you where exactly the trees that we are relocating and where they will be being relocated. Trees are, as I understand by the code, and perhaps the village attorney can elaborate further, it's being overseen by Miami-Dade. We have submitted an application.
There is a county ordinance that regulates.
regulates trees. So having said that, we have applied already for a tree relocation permit, and that is ongoing. Due to the unique shape of the corner lot, this is not a square site as many of the properties that we saw tonight. This is a very odd shape. The strict setbacks of the village, septic tank clearances, especially on lot 13, it is not feasible to adjust the site layout to preserve these trees. That's why we are relocating them. The buildable area is severely constrained, and without relocation, we will be deprived of the reasonable and beneficial use of our land, including the ability to construct and having a single-family home that is compliant with all the applicable zoning and building codes. Per my conversation with Mr. Binders at a Todd Lot a couple of weeks ago, as we should have a bill of rights over our properties, and I believe we have a right to develop our site into building a single-family home. We're not proposing anything that is foreign to what has been built in the city. So Sanctuary Corner blends Florida vernacular architecture with the natural textures, featuring vertical wood accents, deep overhangs, and generous glazing. We are proposing lush greenery, cascading planters from the second level to soften the home's lines, creating a seamless connection with the surrounding landscape. The design reflects El Portal's commitment to green, resilient development while maintaining the intimacy scale of the neighborhood. Our second proposal is Sanctuary Arbor. Sanctuary Arbor carries forward with the same thoughtful design, with a strong horizontal expression and a recessed, shaded entry. It's a strong reflection of masonry modern architecture with some modern touches and some materiality that has been approved by the design guidelines of the city, like exposed concrete. The linear form mirrors geometry and a lot of incorporates native landscape, as one of the speakers tonight encouraged that, and what we are proposing is native landscape, and a subtle facade that harmonizes with the street. The architecture reflects the village identity, modern, yet respectful of its lush, natural settings. Unfortunately, we got put last on the agenda, and I wanted my wife and my daughters to be here because they're excited for this house. As we said, we live here, and we look forward to this property that potentially be our future home. My mom and my stepdad lived on the house that is existing on the property. So we're bringing more residents and bringing this family-oriented vision. So I just want to share a video because my daughter was very excited about this project. So she just gave us a tour of the house. So just to close, our homes enhances the neighborhood character with modern, high-quality design and respect the village scale, adds long-term value through responsible infill development and improved streetscapes, includes on-site septic, stormwater system, and utility connections with minimal infrastructure impact, promotes sustainability with native landscaping, energy-efficient features, and water-saving systems. Thank you, everybody, for your attention and thoughtful consideration. We respect your support and favorable review of Sanctuary Arbor and Sanctuary Corner.
Thank you very much. Questions and comments from the committee?
Okay, yeah, I've got some comments. So I remember from the last meeting, we were discussing the possibility of 3 properties. So you decided to maintain the existing home that's there on that lot, and then just focus on the 2 vacant lots for development. Is that correct?
That is correct.
The
If I can elaborate.
Yeah,
or
sure,
not.
sure.
At the time of our application, we didn't know exactly the structural integrity of the existing house because we purchased the property in December. After further investigation, we found that it's structurally stable, so we wanted to keep the house.
Okay.
And we're keeping it.
And then would you still have once these projects were done, would you still have plans for remodeling or otherwise making modifications to the existing house that's there on that 3rd lot?
We just improve internally. It is great. It's an architecture that is actually unique because it's Art Deco, and it's actually was built by an Art Deco architect, very famous Art Deco architect at the time. I think it was built in the 1960s.
Okay. So for the Sanctuary Corner property, which I believe is what we're looking at right behind you here, is that right?
That is correct.
Okay, so I have to say this is for me, a marked improvement over the middle design from the last meeting. Again, I'm not against modern architecture. I'll focus on the Sanctuary Corner property right now. And so I'm a little bit torn. I'll get through it, but because of where these properties are, where this lot is, that's an absolute iconic corner for the village. Whatever ends up on that corner lot, both of those lots, or however it looks with all 3 of them there, the existing plus the 2 new, however it looks in the end, will absolutely have a significant impact on the village, I think, going forward. I don't get the impression that that's lost on you. I think you see that of where that corner is, where they are. It's unavoidable. So my initial reaction to this was I'll just be blunt, was still negative overall, but honestly, as I sit with this one, the corner property, I do feel that it has a mid-century modern quality to it, outside of just its straight, modern architecture. I do think you softened it up quite a bit. I felt it was the original design from last time I felt like quite abrasive in terms of just a stark contrast compared to what is around it, right?
Correct.
So I'm softening on this design, and then my comment for the Arbor property is, I was looking at the full portfolio, inside the house, the back, the experience of living in that property, right? And I got to be honest, I feel like it belongs on Star Island or Palm Island. It's an impressive property. I certainly don't feel that it's an unimpressive design. It makes great use of the space. For the Arbor property, for me, it almost feels industrial or certainly commercial versus just strictly modern residential. The lines are just so completely I don't know. I don't know. It feels like there's a parking area below, and then there's like offices upstairs. For the Arbor property, I'm still having a hard time wrapping my head around how it truly fits into the surrounding area. When I first saw the update for this middle property, the corner property, my initial reaction, I think, probably was still anchored in the previous presentation. I am definitely softening quite a bit on the corner property. It seems to, as I sit with it, it does seem to fit with certainly mid-century modern concepts. It has a feel of, of that era to it, and the vegetation, the hanging or not, honestly, even if it wasn't, doesn't have to be hanging. I think just adding the planters is wonderful, honestly, and goes a long way towards making it feel more residential as opposed to just strictly just a modern structure. There is no proper garage on either of these properties. The Arbor has a carport, and then this is just fully exposed. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. All right. So I don't know that I'm open to any comments, feedback, or anything you want to address in anything I just said, but those are my initial.
I got your
feelings.
comment, and if you look at the latest renderings for Arbor, we added some planters on the second level to soften it up and to bring this greenery inside. Because before, like you said, there was a lot of glass on the side, and it could be amazing if you have an amazing view. Here you have an amazing view, but it's for trees. So we softened it up. We softened that up with the planters on the second level for Arbor, similar to this one. So
Yeah, I totally got that. My initial concerns with the first presentation was just the strictly modular presentation of it. For the corner that it's on and where it is, distraction again kind of runs into the mind of it stands out. It's going to be noticed, that's for sure. Then the question becomes does it stand out in one aspect, or does it stand out because it's creating questions like So in my mind, I'd want to avoid it being. You don't want a lot of questions being generated by it. You just want that feeling generated by it, and I'm starting to feel like you pulled it off of the corner, but
I understand your comments, but also on the right of way, there are multiple mature oak trees that they kind of screen this property to the inside. There's a big mature, which are beautiful, and we plan to keep it. Is Bird of Paradise. So if you stand on the corner and look, there's a big bush, dense Bird of Paradise palms that kind of screen this property. So it kind of, and plus the greenery that we add in, it kind of blends with those trees. So you won't see it as much. We add in vertical elements, wood elements, that also is going to help that to kind of screen that view. It's not be as invasive design towards that corner. And I know it's a prominent corner, but I don't think what we are proposing here is bad for that. Actually complements it.
I have a comment. Councilman Erbaum, I think you hit the nail on the head as to what I was experiencing. I do think that Sanctuary Corner is amazing, but the Sanctuary Arbor did hit me as a little commercial. There's something about it that just kind of paused, and I think that description is a good one. It strikes me as a bit sterile. I think the roof line is a bit, I don't know, it's just very linear, very serious.
I think it's hard to fathom, but if you look at the other modern proposal on 87, which is further to the west, and you see a solid facade with wood, there's no elements, and we wanted to avoid that. That's why we did an interlocking play of the volumes. So it's not that invasive. And we also have wood on the front, so it softened that facade up. Yeah. And we added landscaping as well. And probably initially the beginning when that house was built was against it. But I think, and including all my friends that visited me, they see that property with that vines growing on the wall and say, you know, I want a house like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, another question for you, and just orient me as to how the houses will interplay with each other. Are we talking about they're all just kind of in the same row? Like, just give me an idea of like how do the houses?
It's impossible to put it on the same road because there are 3 different lots. So one is linear, very typical to what you see all throughout El Portal, and then you have 2 corner lots. The most difficult one is the corner lot, and it's because it has an angle street that shapes the east side of the property line, and also the setback restrictions. So it was very hard to plan this house, to keep it small, to also put in a septic tank in it, which has million requirements nowadays. So no, they will be totally
So explain to
independent.
me
If it's simple houses, I think we comply with all the setbacks. So I think from Sanctuary Arbor to the property to the west, there's more than 15 feet setback. From this one, we have a pool that we are proposing, so it's going to be separated from corner from Arbor. And the existing house that we're keeping actually complies with all the setbacks.
Yeah, I get all of that.
Yeah.
But like when I'm looking at the property, I'm standing in front of City Hall, I'm looking at it. What will I see? There's the existing property. I know where that will be. Where are the other 2? And if you want to use like, I don't know, this gavel, just orient me a little bit. Like,
Give me 1 second.
what's the experience?
You won't see the Sanctuary Arbor. Why? Because you have an elevated second level, and it's actually free floor on the ground, and it's the ground the ground floor or the interior living space is actually set back. So you have similar parkings that you have all throughout the city. People park on the front, so we have that. So that's going to be continuous on that street. And what you're going to see is just a modern line, clean line on that second level. And how we soften it up from the previous one, we added a window. We added a vertical window to break that massiveness of that front facade, the volume that fronts the street.
So when I'm standing in front of City Hall and I look, I'll see the existing property, the Sanctuary Corner, and then somewhere floating in the back is Sanctuary Arbor. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I don't think you will see it because there's multiple trees on that right of way, especially oak
But
trees.
that's where it will be. Whether or not
you won't see that second level, and those trees are gonna stay.
Okay, so whether or not I see it, that's where it will be. I might not be able to
correct.
see it, but
Correct.
so you're just gonna like stack them all in there.
Correct. And I think we're just gonna have your view. I don't know if you have seen the property to your west. Should get some renovation.
It's a lot.
Right outside the door, right?
Well, but to the east, to the west of us.
Yeah, but we right outside the door, right?
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
I've got one technical question. So for the lot, the middle lot, the corner. Okay, Sanctuary Corner. The driveway itself, in reference to the roundabout, where are we having the driveway exit into the street?
The existing house has a turnaround entrance. So what we're gonna do is reconfigure. People are gonna come in on the existing lot, and where that comes out is actually on corner lot. So basically, it's an existing approach.
Okay.
What we're just doing is just shifting the driveway and separating it from the existing, so it leads towards
But as a vehicle
this house.
So as the vehicle exits the driveway, it's on Park Drive.
You can drive right now, and it's actually
Same
an existing
okay.
same existing approach.
I
We're
can
not
picture- yeah.
changing. We're not
I walk
changing
by
that.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Perfect.
Okay.
Question for Scarlett. Oh no, go do yours first, and then I'll.
No, do it. My computer working again.
Scarlett, as far as what is being proposed, I know that we have certain requirements as to, I guess, how much space should be around the property. All of that is in compliance with what is being proposed currently?
Yes, you're talking about setbacks?
Yes, setbacks.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
All right. So thank you, Federico. Thank you for your time, for the presentation. Thank you for making the adjustments since last time we met. I appreciate that very much. I want to acknowledge these efforts that you've made to preserve the canopy by updating the plans to relocate the trees instead of tearing down more trees and relocating one or two. You've made a lot of work to make those trees not get torn down. The change shows you're trying to be responsive to the community's feedback. But I do want to be honest, there are still concerns we have, and I think many of us share it here. We appreciate the intent of saving the trees and relocating, but there are serious risks for it. They're old, they're established oaks, and moving them isn't like transplanting a young sapling. As we discussed, the canopy must be severely cut back to even attempt the relocation. So large mature oak trees, they don't recover like they do normally with that kind of trauma. Their branches don't compartmentalize the way younger trees do. And the result can be a slow decline over several years. And as you and I spoke earlier at the meeting, you said to me that with your own statement, there's a 40% chance the tree may not survive. And we have that over 3 trees. That means we have a 1 in 3 chance that a mature oak tree is going to basically lose its life because of the moving it. This is a pretty high risk. And when we're talking about trees that aren't just part of your lot, it's actually part of Sherwood Forest. So this entire canopy is shared by the community. And when even one of these trees dies, especially after being cut or moved, it feels like a loss for the entire community. So the shade, the roots, the ecosystem, it connects us all.
So the risk, sorry to interrupt, so go ahead.
Yeah,
My
so
apologies.
that was one concern, but of course you have a tree company that is supposed to be very well versed in moving trees. I mean, I would definitely like to see the numbers from them of the survivability rate that they're doing, because we want to make sure these trees survive. But there's another problem that we also spoke about, that this concern was about the placement of the oak tree on the sanctuary arbor. And you were going to move it all the way to the back, about 5 feet or 10 feet from a power line. Now, this tree right now has a 26-foot canopy. So eventually it will grow back into that power line. And hopefully you're not cutting back to 5 feet or 10 feet wide canopy. I mean, that's really butchering it. I'm a little worried about that, because when you do take the house and you sell it, the future owner is going to have to deal with that at some point. And for both the homeowner and the power company, it can be a problem. It could lead to extensive trimming, or worse, complete removal of the down line, or it could actually lead to the death of the tree. So I wanted to reiterate that. I still am very appreciative that you are willing to move the trees instead of tearing them down. I know everyone here in El Portal loves the trees, as you probably heard tonight quite a few times. Yeah. So the next thing I want to say is I want to stress I'm not against your build. I'm not against your right to build. It is your property, and you have the right to build on your property as you're following the building code that was developed by El Portal. And if we want to change the way the code is, it's on us to do that. But since you own the land and you're following the code, you have this right. But as you acknowledged, and I believe too, the Sherwood Forest doesn't belong to just one lot. It belongs to all of us. So any action that could lead to a loss of a major part of the canopy is something we need to take seriously. Now, I do want to ask one thing, and we did have a quick conversation about it. With the site, the Sanctuary Arbor, we had both Councilperson Erbaum and Vice Mayor here speak about this one property. And I see the most beautiful canopy in your yard right now, and I'm hoping that they all survive and you just have this luscious green forest over it. I see this flat roof, and it kind of scares me that you have these big oak trees that are going to drop, honestly, metric tons of leaves over each year onto it. Would it be possible to put like a slanted roof on it a little bit, 312, 412, not talking about, a hat on it. We're talking about something that allows it to actually shed leaves. Is that something that's possible for the designs?
Can you finish and then
Okay.
I'll address you in order?
All right. Well, thank you for showing the video of your daughter. I love family. I love that you have your family here in El Portal and your mother living right in that house and you live down the street. I hope we can work towards a solution for all of this for you.
Okay, appreciate it. So regarding the tree mitigation, I think DERM gives us two options. So we have development rights on our property, and where the trees, and they do as you are, because they're the authority, find ways to develop the land without removing the trees. Unfortunately, this is a very old shaped lot. We have stringent setbacks. There's no way to develop it without moving or removing the trees. So my question to you is, if you fear risk of the tree dying after relocation, the other option that Miami DERM gives us is to replace the canopy that we lost with new trees. So that will be an option. And let me tell you, that's a very better option and cheaper option than me going and relocating the trees.
So we've had some of that here in El Portal where trees were replaced, and we have had very angry mobs here telling us that they were not happy that the trees were replaced from a large oak tree. And I would like to make sure the residents are somewhat appeased.
So that's what we're doing. That's why I'm going to an extent of relocating the trees and not removing the trees and replacing the canopy with newer, healthier trees.
And of course, I appreciate it.
Regarding the tree trimming, regarding the interaction with power lines in my house, my neighbor and my property, we have 4 trees in the existing house that we live. FPNL has to come in and trim the trees, and I'm pretty sure at your property too. If you look at front and on the side of your property, it's full of mature trees, so it won't be invasive to what we are. Yes, we're gonna have to trim, but I'm not doing the trimming. A professional company will do that and certify, and it will be under the jurisdiction of Miami DERM 3. Regarding the flat roof, there are mid-century architecture with flat roofs existing. Our roof is not completely flat. It has a pitch, and on the end of the pitch, we're gonna have gutters. That gutters is gonna have a screen that prevent the leaves from staying in the roof. Water is gonna come and shut down, and we're taking a step further. We're taking gutters, bring the water down under the ground into French drains, and mitigating that. So that's an additional expense we're doing.
What is the pitch?
It's 1%. I think 2% is the recommended by code, but you can go down to 1%. So it has a pitch. It's not a completely.
It's less than 112, though. It's only 1%. It will let water drain off it. But again, you have 8, 12, however many oak trees in your yard, they're going to be shedding onto that roof. Well, is it enough pitch to shed the leaves?
It is enough, and it will be a brand new concrete roof, and it's going to be more resistant than the mid-century architectures that are on this side of the house that pretty much they never get shadow.
Thank you.
Mayor, I have a final comment. So I think I have a question, but I can't remember it. I know I have a comment, so I'll share that. So I'll share that with you.
Pass your bid.
So I'm thinking about my own comments about the Arbor property, right? And so as you know, looking over the plans for like the 7th time, I think one of the challenges I have on the Arbor property is that and again, it's hard to go off of renderings, right? Because renderings I try to be cautious not to put too much faith into renderings and really try to go off plans and what the someone like yourself is explaining. So one of my challenges as I look at the Arbor renderings is that part of why I feel I get a commercial vibe from it, right? is because of the modular, like it feels like it's containers, like a container, right? So it feels like modular container construction, which is, of course, a style, and again, the property looks like it will absolutely be a beautiful, enjoyable property. And so maybe I have a suggestion, and take it for what it's worth, but one of the challenges I see is that the first story that is perpendicular across the property, right? It almost has the illusion of being narrow, like a container. But then you look at the actual designs, and you actually look at the footprint, and it's actually pretty deep.
It's pretty deep.
Right. And so along the eastern wall, you have no windows currently in the renderings.
Second level, yes.
Second
Level, yes.
But on the first level, I see no windows on the east face. So this side that would be facing the corner property, right?
There is a corner, there's a corner rendering, and if you look at the rendering on the corner, I can pull it to you.
Yeah. I'm talking about the Arbor property right now. Yeah. Okay.
This is the back of that
Yes.
building, and look how open it is.
Yep.
towards the back.
Beautiful. Yep. Right. So the wall there that's near us in that picture, right? That extends then out towards the street, that wall. That wall is what I'm referencing in terms of having no windows. And I feel that if you even had just like these types of windows along the top, so that you're not, I feel like something that would allow people to, from the rendering, which again is difficult, one of the challenges I have, which makes me think of a commercial property as opposed to a residential, is it looks like container construction, as I'm saying. So I think if you could do something to have the eye notice that the first floor is actually deep, I feel like that would actually solve the problem of.
I have a very detailed 3D, so maybe before the commissioners meeting,
Sure.
I can show you different views to kind of soften that up for you.
So
and if
looking
that's
at-
the case, we
Yeah.
can perhaps add a slide window to just break that volume.
Right.
volume.
I'm looking at the aerial, I'm looking at the top down, I'm looking at other things, and I'm thinking, okay, from other angles, I don't get the same impression as I do from the street view, right?
Mhm.
In the rendering, which again is difficult to really make decisions off of, try not to put too much, weight on the renderings as opposed to the plans themselves. But anyway, as I'm sitting there looking at it in my mind, you can kind of see how, right, it looks like it's short. It looks like it's just like 10, So I feel like if you could actually draw the eye to see that it's actually deep, that kind of solves the illusion of the container configuration that I'm getting. Anyway, so.
Anyone else from the council, on the committee? Hearing, seeing none. Anybody from the audience? Questions, comments? Come to this one over here so he can respond. Say your name and address for the record again for us.
Scott Kobrick, 8525 Northeast 4th Avenue Road. So I just had a couple questions about the trees. So who is the arborist that is used for this? Is it somebody that works with the village or a third party?
It's a certified arborist. It's an arborist, and it's a tree relocation company. And it's approved by Miami-Dade Durham.
Okay. But it's not somebody who works with the city, right? Because we're a tree city, so I guess is there something that there's
We do not have just like a strict arborist dedicated to the village. No, we would be soliciting services like that on an ad hoc basis, essentially. And as far as the Tree City USA goes, there's just a few requirements for us to maintain that, one of which actually centers around planting of trees.
Mhm.
That would be more like swales as opposed to residential within their properties, in our parks, in our swales, which Robert Ruano does a very good job of helping us acquire these trees and make sure that we stay up to date with those activities. Tree City USA is a designation that we have, but it does not mean that we have like a staff that within our normal course of business that the manager oversees, essentially, we're able to check off the requirement boxes in our normal day-to-day operations without having to employ the use of somebody specific like an arborist. If that helps
Sure.
clarify.
Yeah, I just was curious if there's anybody from the village like working with the people that are being hired by.
No,
the
we default to Durham or to the
Okay.
county or,
Got
you know, our own code. Yeah, yeah, that is all. Yeah, there's no specialty division within the village that addresses that.
Okay. And then these trees that are being removed, they are being moved on the property to a different location on the property.
Correct. I showed the diagram where
Got it.
each tree is going.
As I mentioned earlier, I
No,
didn't
no
get
worries.
the email, so. And then, okay, and so I think Charles, Councilperson Winters asked about the other thing, which is the percentage of survival rate that is like something, from your understanding, about 40% of the.
That was my take. After
Okay.
our conversations with Winters, I went to and spoke to my arborist and the certified tree relocator, and they stated that with proper procedures, the survivability is great. That's why we're hiring a professional company to do that.
Got it. But they weren't able to provide any sort of like percentage of survival for.
No.
Okay.
But it's pretty low if done correctly.
It's
It's low if it's done correctly.
Okay.
And under the Miami-Dade guidelines.
Okay. Yeah, no, I just wanted to ask those questions and then I guess just comment that, of course, I don't want there to be any, you know, discrimination of this property because of its location. And I don't think that should be, but what I say, I think takes, you know, should take place everywhere in El Portal, which is that, you know, our trees are extremely important, our canopy is extremely important, and that, you know, if it is not a good chance that these trees are gonna survive and we're removing, you know, a large percentage of those canopy, to take that into consideration and also ask, do you know what the requirements are for replacing that canopy? Because I know that is another option.
That is the other option. And your trees are my trees. I'm also a resident of Del Portal. And like I said, and I stated to Mr. Winters, the other option is to replace the canopy with better trees, newer and better trees. But I understand that there's a passion towards the existing, and that's what I'm trying to do, and that's why I'm going a step forward to relocating those trees.
And what happens in the case that those trees don't survive?
There is a bond required by Miami-Dade Durham, so we are obligated to replace that canopy.
Okay.
With the same species and similar size.
And is there any sort of time period that, like, is that they would put in little saplings and then take 100
No,
years?
it has to be mature trees brought in, and probably one or two to replace the canopy.
If I might, sir, that's all governed by the county ordinance. They're
Correct.
very specific, and it's not,
Understood.
you know, kind of free-handed. They're very clear in the county
Sure,
ordinance.
sure. Okay, thank you.
All right, Mr. Mayor, if I could just super quick. First, I would like to genuinely say thank you for making the attempt to consider relocation as opposed to just strict replacement. I suspect that since they are staying on the lot, they will tolerate the soil well, since the soil composition should be almost identical from the location they're being moved from. And additionally, I would anticipate that they would not have to. I understand what Councilperson Winters is saying, but that's typically, I think, in terms of chopping the canopy of the tree, is typically for truck transport, to facilitate truck transport. And since this will be relocated on the same lot, I suspect that they will not have to take nearly as much canopy off of it as they would from another tree that's being transported to another property. So I suspect that if this is a certified tree locator, that while we still have some regulatory bodies operating in the country, they have already their existing certification, which means they've already, you know,
Done multiple of
they've
this.
learned the information that would be most beneficial to, so I actually think you have a very high rate, a high chance of success with these relocations, and understanding that you have no obligation to do that. You could just do a strict replacement if you wanted to. And I do want to express sincere gratitude for even considering, let alone actually going through with an attempt to relocate the trees, as opposed to just you know, a strict cut and replace.
Correct, and it's I have learned a lot, and it's a long process.
Yeah.
Actually, it takes about 4 to 6 months to prepare the tree for
yeah.
the relocation.
Yeah.
And we're gonna do that.
Yeah, so.
And my mom and my stepdad will take care of it, the water every day.
Very good.
Anybody else from the audience?
That's my mom.
Good evening. We are a family. I am your mother and grandmother of the girls who are growing up in El Portal. I support the project because I want all of us to grow together in this beautiful community. I also want to continue living here as it brings great projects to the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mom.
Thank you. Thank you, Mom. Say your name and address.
Oh, sorry. No, if I may. I'm actually the architect of 460 Northwest 90th Street.
And your name is?
Andres Barros. And pertaining to the property that you guys were seeing has like container-esque aesthetics. I feel, looking at the property as an architect, it's kind of more reminiscent of like a Villa Savoie. So it's a property that it looks like it respects, it's elevated, it respects and embraces the fauna around it. That's how I see it, just looking at it from an architect's perspective. I don't see it as a typical, like a container home. I think it's something that's more embracing of the nature around it, particularly that one. This one's beautiful as well, but I know that was the one that you had kind of concerns with, you know. And that was just my 2 cents, sorry.
Thank you.
I always appreciate 2 cents.
Anyone else from the audience?
Can we vote now?
Hi, I'm George Alvarez at 165 Northwest 88th Street. I think it's a lovely design, but I'm a little confused as to how the 3 plats. In one of the plans that was provided to me, there is I guess probably a AutoCAD rendering of Sanctuary Corner and how it lays on the property and where the trees are. Do you have something that includes all 3 plats?
Yes, it was provided.
Oh, okay, maybe. So the existing house is
Sanctuary Arbor,
Sanctuary Arbor, okay.
Sanctuary Corner, the existing house. This is the largest oak tree right now. This
Right.
tree is going to the north of Sanctuary Arbor. The tree that is here is too close to the property, so if we build so close, it's gonna die. That's why we're shifting it a couple of feet to the east, just to protect the roots. And this one that is on Sanctuary Arbor, because of the septic tank requirements, we're actually moving it to the existing house. So
Well, I commend your attempt to move
Thank you.
those big oak trees.
a crane will do it. I won't move it.
Is it one of those hand crank cranes that you have?
It's a very large crane.
I think as some of the comments I heard from the council, I think if you're going to approve of his design, I think approve it all the way. I think trying to change roof pitch, I think trying to, there are some mid-century elements. Mid-century is very cool, but ostensibly it's a modern house. If you're going to like it, and you're going to have to see it every day, let them do it. It looks kind of beautiful. And, you know, if you're going to go all that way, go all that way.
Appreciate it.
Are you gonna live there?
Yes,
Okay.
eventually.
Okay. So
once we build it,
So
and then I go renovate the existing one and build a new one because there's some sediment on the structure, so the walls are cracking.
Is that the one further north?
The one we leave at 156. We're having issues with crawl space. I know council member loves crawl space. We just went to an extensive renovation to mitigate the rotting of those existing members underneath the crawl space. And so I'd rather go slap on grade.
I thought you were talking about the one on 4th, the existing one on 4th Avenue. You're talking about the one on 89th that you live in.
Yeah, the one on 89 that I currently live, or I live for the last, well, we own for the last 10 years.
Okay. Thanks for your time.
Thank you,
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Anybody else from the audience?
Federico, I just wanted to commend you on your designs. It's inspiring. Your talent is through and through on both projects. I'm very proud that I've known you since circa 2011, I believe it was.
Correct.
We worked together at Arquitectonica. I think we've both come a long ways, and I'm proud to be developing these projects at the same time with you.
Hopefully we collaborate.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, one day.
Yeah.
Thank
Will
you.
do.
Thank you very much. Anyone else from the audience? All right. Hearing, seeing none. Any last questions or comments from the committee?
Call the question.
You got a question, or you say call the question?
I said call it.
All right, but before we do that, is there any last questions or comments from the committee? All right, hearing, seeing none. When I spoke to you, when we met, my only concern was what? The landscape, the trees, and moving the trees. My concern was what?
Dying.
That it dying. And so that's my number one concern. When I met with you guys, that's my number one concern. That's still my number one concern. So just be just adhere to that, the landscaping and the moving of the trees.
I'll call you so you walk across and we'll oversee it together.
Yes, we'll oversee it together. Yeah, and that's another important point. Just kind of keep in mind that this is going to be something that changes that corner that we've been seeing for decades. You know what I mean? So just kind of keep that in mind, because it's going to be a reminder for everyone who comes to Village Hall, every time we walk out of Village Hall every day, if we put our trust in the right person or not. And that's going to be huge, that we see that every day.
I've been developing in North Miami for 7 years now, and I just got a building approved for 48 units, and that's a testament that they trust what I'm doing.
I understand, but over here we do things different over here. So just want to make
100%.
sure you can come up. You can come up, say your name and address for the record. But that, like I said when I met you guys, that was my only concern, was the landscape, the trees, the landscaping, the trees, and moving such mature trees, and hopefully, that they keep when you move them. Yes. Full name and address for it.
Sergio Havia, and I live at the 8750 house we're talking about right now.
Right.
So when you brought your comment up just now, it made me think. So I was gonna say a few things, but there's one thing I want everybody to know. I live there now. Just the maintenance, because of the trees, is costly. Number one, it's very costly. And it's very hard to maintain. And I'm not saying we don't want to save the trees, because I think the individuals that FEDA has working for them, I think they know what they're doing, and I think they're going to do a good job. But just so you're aware, and this is not anything negative, but it does cost a lot of money to maintain that property. So just keep that in mind, that it takes work, and it takes money, and it takes dedication to take care of that large lot, and it's beautiful, by the way. So it does take a lot of work. I just wanted to make that point.
We appreciate that. Thank you for your words.
Thank you, Sergio.
Can
We're
I
going to
respond
make
to
it
that?
even more beautiful.
Go ahead, 'cause I have a response also.
Okay,
Go ahead.
so You brought up a very good point. These trees do take maintenance, and when I moved into my own home here, I had 12 large oak trees at my house. And of course, I've had 2 of them die and fall on my house. If my daughter was outside, she would have died from one of them. This being said, when trees die, they don't just die and they're just sitting there. They fall over, and if someone's in the yard or they hit the house and they collapse into the house, people can die as well. So it's more than just thinking about, oh, these things might die. Oh, we'll just cut it down and replace it. No, there's serious implications where people can get hurt. Now, again, I understand that you have to do a lot of yard maintenance. I do too. I think I put about a metric ton of leaves outside my house every bulk pickup, and I know how that is. And this is one of the reasons I also told him that I wanted to have a pitch on one of the roofs, because I have a flat roof in one section of my house, and I'm tired of going up there every 2 weeks and raking my flat roof to get all those leaves off. And then when I get the leaves off, the pile that was on the roof is about 4 feet tall and about 12 feet wide. And that's on a small section of my house. And that's 1/5 the size of these houses right here. So hopefully, as he has hired a very professional tree mover, these trees will survive, and the future tenants that are living there will be safe. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just wanted to say that, you know, we all have to keep in mind just El Portal and kind of what makes us special, you know. And so I understand, and I fully understand what you're saying about the trees and you know, the maintenance that it takes. But just know that when you're moving into El Portal, that's kind of like par for the course. You know what I mean? So that's the type of thing that makes us special, and those are just kind of going to be the type of, like, you know, consistency you just have to accept with living in El Portal. So just kind of keep that in mind. Attorney Geller.
Just a very quick comment, Mayor. I rarely make one, but on a substantive basis. But I've sat here a long time, and for anybody who wants to know what you need to do to get something approved in El Portal, they ought to look at this gentleman and see, number one, you listen to your neighbors. Number two, you care about your community. And number three, you spend the money to do things right. And if you do those things, you end up hearing from the community what this gentleman has heard tonight, and other people would be well advised to follow that model. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Attorney Geller. Any last comments from the audience? You guys good? Any last comments from the committee? We're good. All right, do I have a motion for F6? We're going to take them one at a time. This is 8750 Northeast 4th Avenue Road. This is lot 13.
So moved.
All right, moved by Vice Mayor Martin. Do I have a second? Second by Councilperson Lightfoot Ward. Madam Clerk, please.
Roll call. Councilperson Winters.
Yes.
Councilperson Lightfoot Ward.
Yes.
Councilperson Erbaum.
So, lot 113.
This is 13.
This is corner.
No, that's Arbor.
This is Arbor for lot 113.
This is 13.
It's 13.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, okay.
Tonight.
I know.
You can take as much time as you need, Councilperson Urban. Don't ever let anybody bully you.
I gotta move a car. Catch up with me after I move a car. All right. I'm torn. All right. I'm gonna say no on this one.
Okay.
Vice Mayor Martin.
Yes.
Mayor Nickerson.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-1.
The next one, do I have a motion for 8750 Northeast 4th Avenue Road? This is lot 14.
So moved.
Moved by Councilperson Lightfoot Ward.
I'll second.
Second by Councilperson Urban. Madam Clerk, can I have a roll call?
Roll call. Councilperson Winters.
Yes.
Councilperson Lightfoot Ward.
Yes.
Councilperson Erbaum.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Martin.
Yes.
Mayor Nickerson.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right, we're putting our
Thank
trust
you.
in you now.
Thank you.
And in you. All right, congratulations, you guys. Remember, come anytime after tomorrow to get the sign. You have to put the sign in the yard for the meeting. And I'm going to try to move these really fast to get next month's meeting instead of 2 months. Any last good and welfare? Anybody can come and talk about anything at all? Last good and welfare before we adjourn?
I'd just like to say thank you to everybody for coming out tonight. It's always
Yes.
good to see residents coming out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good stuff, you guys.
And Mayor?
Yes, Councilperson Lightfoot Ward.
I just want to thank everybody that sent me letters and actually encouraged me to come on back to the council. I appreciate that. much. I really do. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Councilperson Lightfoot Ward. Anybody else? All right, we're good. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion moved by Vice Mayor Martin. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilperson Erbaum. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Hearing none. The Planning and Zoning Committee meeting for March 20th, 2025 is adjourned at 10:05 p.m.